Getting ready for bed at a regular time is one of the most important habits you can learn.
Who you gonna call?
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Poor Lori. Scared another one away.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
We are counselors at Hackett's Quarry Summer Camp. There is a swarm of bears.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you.
It's showtime.
Hello, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Scream Stream. Now we are on episode 13, and episode 13 is a wonderful episode because not only are we concluding the beautiful rendition and retelling of The Haunting of Hill House, but it's episode 13. Woo! Friday the 13th. One day I'll do that, guys. One day, but not today. But on today's fabulous and wonderful episode, like I said, we're wrapping up on The Haunting of Hill House. Granted, I don't really have too many fun facts, but I did find some interesting backstories, basically. So, I want to say last week I did tell y'all about oh god, I don't think I ever caught that writer's name. One of the writers of the show was going on Reddit and posting, canon. I want to say they say it's canon, but it's basically some kind of prequel stuff, some behind the scene, background information on a lot of these ghosts and stuff. And me and my buddy Andrew, who's also a big fan of the show, went back and we read a lot of these, and we actually found out what might have caused the entire situation of the house just being a hungry motherfucker. So, one thing I was correct on was William being Jacob's son, Hazel being the daughter, and Poppy and stuff. I'm not sure about the kids though. I've read several different stories about the kids involved that they keep being swapped back and forth. I want to say for sure Jacqueline Hill and Edward belonged to Hazel, but it could be Jacqueline Eugene. But I know Jacqueline for sure belongs to Hazel. I'm not sure, though, about Edward or Eugene. I don't know who belongs to who. But the story goes, Jacob Hill originally bought the property for him and his wife to start building on. And as they were building, his wife died, only seeing the skeleton of the house. Thus, is when he remarried. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure if he remarried or not. Because, in the story, they didn't really delve too much into detail about, when the kids were born and shit. So, I don't know if he got remarried and had the kids, or if the kids were already born and then she died. I don't really know. But she passed away. He became kind of a rich business tycoon type of dude. They sent William away because he was exhibiting the... I'm not going to say crazy trait, but we're going to call it the crazy trait so it can make sense. The crazy trait, though. So they sent him off to a private school, and by private school, I mean a special place for rich people to send their rich kids because they don't want to be embarrassed. But they sent William there, and Hazel stayed and basically ran the entire house after Jacob died. And Jacob died right after the stock market crash in the 20s. He apparently threw himself off the roof of his house and killed himself. Now, my roommate says that might have started a lot of the shenanigans, a lot of the bad seeds being planted in the house, on the grounds of the house. But after Jacob died, Hazel basically had the house. She didn't inherit the house because this is old 19th century logic. So, women couldn't claim houses. So she kept just running the house, basically making the money. And she owned a bootlegging operation. Did not know that. She apparently owned the bootleg operation. I thought it'd be William. Nope, it was her. Hazel owned it. She ran it pretty good. And then William came back, and this is where Poppy comes in at, because he met Poppy at the asylum, and they had brought and towed a child. No, wait, no, that was Hazel. Hazel came back with a child. Basically, though, William and Poppy show up, take claim to the house. Hazel's upset, so Hazel leaves, comes back with a husband and another child, so thus starts a feud over the fucking house between Poppy and Hazel with the old, 19th century logic of women can't have houses, so whoever has the man and has the son gets the house. And this really, really sets the tone for the rest of what happened to this terrible, terrible family. I'm not gonna lie, what these people did were fucking terrible. But basically, it's never, they don't straight out go, oh, Hazel killed or Poppy killed, but it's highly suspicious, and a lot of people in the stories chatted about it, saying that certain situations happened that conveniently the kids started dying. I want to say Jacqueline got pushed into cement, and unfortunately, I don't know if she died instantly or it was a slow and painful death, but she got pushed into cement and they had to chip her ass out, and she was dead by the time they got to her. Another one, which I think was one of Hazel's kids as well. No, not Hazel kids. Poppy's kids was one of her sons. She drowned him in a barrel, supposedly. Like, I don't know. The dude says this is canon, but I don't know. But apparently he got killed, put in a barrel full of bootlegging liquid. What the fuck is bootlegging liquid? Bootleg liquor, and was burned because they were getting not really swatted in some aspects, but the heat was coming down on them. They had to get rid of the fucking booze and shit. So Hazel commanded a bunch of her little workers to take the booze and burn it, and apparently in the barrel was the son of Poppy and them. I think those are the only two that really stick out in my head. But basically, though, all the kids ended up dying between the two women. And then William, of course, had an affair. Again, rumor speculates that the affair was Mr. Dudley's mom and shit. And basically, this is what kind of drove him a little crazy, because apparently there was a story where the affair drove him nuts to the point that he walled himself up, which we'll talk about that as we continue on with the episodes and shit. But that's the story, that apparently he walled himself up to get away from the bickering women and Poppy and the affair that was like looming over him like a dark shadow and shit. So that's why he died. I don't know exactly what happened to Hazel's husband, but basically, because neither one of them had husbands, neither one of them had kids, nobody could inherit the household, and it ended up with these two bitter old women just hating each other to the desperate, bitter end. And from that, I want to say that's what manifested the evilness of the house, just that negative energy, the suicides, the constant murders, the backstabbing. That kind of energy over time can seep inside the ground of a house and really haunt it. And, I believe that's what could have caused, whatever this entity, this being that the house is, that, needs to feast, needs to eat on this fear and desperation of wanting things you can't have. But yeah, I thought that was a little interesting going back through. Now, like I said, there's a bunch of those fucking stories, guys. Like a bunch of them. I'm not even gonna lie. They're still posting shit till this day. I think like the newest one we read was like a couple like weeks ago. But yeah, they're still posting this shit even all these years later. So, if you ever get a chance, hop on Reddit. I can't remember the name of the account holder or whoever is posting the stories, but I'm sure if you Google it, you can find out some information about where to go on Reddit to read these stories. But it's really good, and it adds and flesh out a lot of background and details and shit that frankly I didn't even know I need to know, but it really fleshes out the entire thing. And because rumor was they wanted to make a prequel show, but that's not how it ended up going. Because I'm assuming Netflix got involved and went, no, let's stick with the anthology thing because anthology is the big rage at the time. Which is true. I want to say 2018 anthology like movies and TV shows and shit were really, really big. Like really big. A lot of people liked them. And I can get why, because they're very easy to make. I'm not saying like a fucking idiot can do it, but I'm saying like with the right tone and theme of your anthology series, you can create a really good show. Like again, look at The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. Those are two good shows. Granted, I get why Bly Manor didn't do as well as The Haunting of Hill House, and that's basically because of the material. A lot of people either are not familiar with The Turning of the Screw or just didn't like Turning of the Screw because it's kind of a slow burn of a book to get through. But it is a romantic horror gothic type movie, or book I should say. And it's very whimsical, it's very dark, it's very creepy and shit. But it didn't hit the way The Haunting of Hill House did because of the fact that it's more romantic side, you know, it's more about the loss of loved ones and just dealing with, you know, moving on. Which, granted, that's a big theme in The Haunting of Hill House as well, but something about the way they did it in Bly Manor, they really romanticized it. And again, I want to say that's just the material of the book, because I read The Turning of the Screw, I've seen the original movie, I can't remember what it's called, but it's all very good, it's all very, very good horror, but slow burn, so I get why a lot of people didn't like Bly Manor compared to The Haunting of Hill House, which is very like boom, boom, boom. Especially these last half of the season was really like on point with this shit. Something I failed to mention last week, though, since we're done with the backstories and stuff on Reddit I read. But something I failed to mention that I really felt like I should have mentioned, but I just completely just didn't think about it. Is basically the audio, the audio of the show. I noticed it a lot, mainly in episode 5 with Nell's backstories and shit. But if you look at when Nell's under the, I guess, hypnosis of the house and she's dancing to the imaginary figure of her husband, if you go to what she's seeing, which is this beautiful, warm, elegant place, and everything's clean and spotless, looking fantastic, you know, this beautiful romantic music playing, and then you cut back to what's actually going on, and it's just Nell in a fucking nightgown twirly to nothing, and it's just dead quiet. All you hear is crickets. There's no music, there's no lighting or anything going on, it's just dead. And that's something I failed to mention, is how the audio and the lighting works in the advantage of the show. Especially during these last half, definitely with the Mother's episode, when we get there, I'll talk about it. But lighting is very key to the show, and a lot of the audio like effects as well is very key to the show. I will say, they do have the occasional like loud jump scare sound effect, but it's always done super well. It ain't cheesy like some horror movies I've seen where they just kind of like do the dramatic build up and then it fucking happens. And you're just like, oh god, because you're more startled by the loud noise than you are the actual jump scare. But The Haunting of Hill House has those moments, but it ain't just like a loud startling noise. It's actually a very good build up. Damn it, man, I can't talk today. It's a very well done build up jump scare, and it's done very, very well. I know I think it's episode 7 or 8 that has it. I think it's 8, but basically there's a particular episode that I love that has like the best jump scare of this entire show. Like, to me, it's just the best jump scare. But yeah, so if you watch the show, really pay attention to a lot of the audio cues and shit, a lot of the lighting and shit, because you can actually see a lot from about the show just by looking at the lighting and fucking just audio cues and shit, which I'm very impressed, to be honest, that a lot of people have noticed that, especially with the lighting cues. There's a lot of theories around certain colors and shit. Like, it's very, very crazy, very, very out there. But again, I should have really gave this props last week. I didn't really think about it, but this week I'm making it a point just to bring up the fact that the audio, camera work, and the lighting works extremely well for this show. Especially, like I said, the audio and the cameras. Angles as well really work, especially in the first half of the season when we get the different perspectives of, you know, what everybody saw during that same day, and it's at different angles again with, like, Luke standing on top of the stairs and Steve at the bottom of the stairs, and Steve's episode we're looking up at Luke, and Luke's episode we're looking down at Steve, you know, shit like that. It's little camera quips and audio things. Fucking when Nail is looking up at the BitNet lady, that one of those first times, and I want to say episode 1 or 2, we had that cool camera angle where we're looking up at her, and then we turn the camera sideways, and then we just see the BitNet lady kind of like facing her directly, but she's floating above her at the same time, if that makes any sense. But yes, camera work, lighting, all that, super important, really edgy, love it. Love it, love it, love it. But let's go ahead and hop straight on into this shit, because we got 5 beautiful episodes to talk about, and I've been super, super excited to talk about this episode. This, hands down, is my absolutely favorite episode of this entire show. It is not only done extremely well, but it literally adds a lot of insight to Hugh's character and his going on that we've seen in this show as well. But this particular episode is called The Two Storms. Like I said last week, when it comes to the titles of the show, each title kind of represents a big overarching narrative of the entire episode. And the two storms are basically, in the past, there's a storm happening that is basically hell. Oh shit, excusez-moi. Hell is basically coming down, windows are being shadowed, the lights are out and shit. And then the present time, we're also having a similar storm, but there's no hell, but there's a lot of chaos and madness going on upstairs as well. But what makes this episode really, really, like, on par with me is the fact that this is classified as a one-take episode. And I don't mean like they do, you know, alright, say your line, alright, done, take, go. No, this is literally like a one-shot take, like the entire episode, basically, is one consecutive movement with the camera, and there's no cuts, there's no fadeaways, there's no nothing. And very few television episodes have ever tried to do something like this. I want to say there's only one particular movie that stands on the top of my head. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a, what was it, like an 18th century piece? Like, it was like an 18th century period piece movie, but basically it was all done in one shot. And it's fucking incredible, and I have to say, in this episode, it's fucking incredible to see how just well done it is. Just how well done these one-shot looks. So let's go ahead and let's just dive straight on into this. Something I noticed about the openings is, you know, I think it was episode 1 through 4, we always had a little, like, what Nail was doing, what Theo was doing, or what this was going on. And I think it was episode 5. We kind of stopped that, and I want to say episode 6 and 7 are basically the same. And then we have, like, I know with Olivia's chapter, we have the straight up opening with her, and the same thing with chapter 10 as well. We have this weird, like, opening with Luke, and not Luke, with Steve. But we have the opening right after the credits. We're in the present time. This is during Nail's, like, getting prepared for her viewing and shit. Theo and Shirley, of course, you know, they're having a weird talk about, you know, what's basically, you know, going on. Like, hey, is Luke on his way? You know, how does he feel? And they're like, oh, well, you know, he's just coming down from his bench probably. When Steve found him, he wasn't even wearing shoes. You know, they're basically just, like, chastising on poor Luke, and he's not even there yet, but they're already anticipating the fact that he's probably high, which he isn't, but they don't know that. So they're already anticipating him being fucking high and shit, and they're already dogging him. And in this particular thing, you start noticing, from here on out, everybody, of course, is doing the typical, grieving process. You'll notice that Shirley's husband's in the fucking background the entire time, just like straightening every fucking piece of fabric he can find, make sure it's all like crisp and clean. Fucking Theo's drinking her ass off. Like, basically, everyone's drinking their asses off, but Theo gets it started. But that's all explained why, if we remember correctly, in one of the previous episodes, she ended up touching Nell's body and kind of sensing and feeling what Nell felt. So she's still pretty fucking traumatized, and she is just drowning herself in her own fucking alcohol and misery. As they're preparing everything and talking about, Luke and all this shit, Theo does make kind of a bit of a, like, I'm not gonna say a sick joke, but a joke that I felt like was just like, damn, that's just harsh, man. But she made a joke saying, well, Nell tried all this time to get the family together. She didn't have to try so hard to do it, though. Making a point that Nell was the only one trying to bring the family together and keep them together. She was basically like the screw that held the family together, and as soon as she went, well, everybody just kind of crumbled. Everybody, like, you'll see it throughout this episode. Everybody fucking crumbles. And it's so heartbreaking. It really is. And then Luke finally shows up with Steven. Hugh's stuck at... Okay, let me rephrase that. Hugh is at his hotel trying to decide what the fucking wear to this viewing. Like, this poor man's going through his own shenanigans. Just like, do I wear this tie or do I wear this tie? Is this the jacket? Like, what do I wear for my child's fucking viewing? Like, seriously, who the fuck even knows what to do in that situation? So I give him props on that. But as soon as, Luke gets there and shit, Shirley's husband's like, hey, do you need anything? You want some tea? You want some food? Like, we got plenty of shit going on. And Luke, kind of taking all this shit in, just goes, I can't deal with this, and walks to the next room and goes sit down. Steve tries to talk to him, and he's just like, hey, it'll be okay. I'm here with you, man. Like, I'm your brother. I got you. Da-da-da-da. And then Shirley asks Steven, hey, where's your wife at? Where's Leia? I haven't seen her. And that's when it kind of all comes out, hey, we're taking a break. We're taking a separation. And of course the girls, they get like 50,000 questions, like, oh, what do you mean separation? Oh, what do you mean divorce? Oh, what do you mean this? And what do you mean that? And he's like, listen, we got bigger problems to worry about, and then points out Luke. And I actually agree. Like, me and my roommate were talking about this. In a situation like this, yeah, you probably shouldn't have waited till the last fucking second to drop that kind of bomb of, hey, me and my wife are being separated. But now is not the time to talk about that, because of the fact that poor Luke's over here about to have a fucking aneurysm and collapse over out of just pure fucking shock and out of horror. Like, this poor man, I don't think he knows what the fuck to do with himself. Like, seriously, for the rest of the episode, he's just depressed. But just depressed. And again, I don't blame him. I really don't blame him. And then, once we get, everyone trying to calm Luke down, and then, Shirley gets Steven a drink, so now Steven's drinking, fucking, Shirley's already been drinking a little bit, sharing with her husband. And again, like I said, Theo's just fucking pounding this shit and just fucking pounding this shit and then they start talking about Nellie's death, about how it just doesn't make any sense, because of the fact that she knows what suicide does to the family. Why would she do this? And of course, they get into an argument about it was the fucking house, whether it is or isn't the house. But all that kind of ceases as soon as Hugh walks in. Now, as soon as, Hugh walks in, everybody, kind of turns to look at him. And he gets that realization as soon as he walks in that this is the first time he is looking at all of his kids in the same room together in a long, long time. Ooh, excuse-moi. And, of course, he goes to look at Nellie and, oh yeah, that was something I forgot to mention during the one of the arguments before Hugh walked in. Steven... Oh no, it did happen here. I can't remember if this happened before or after Hugh showed up, but at one point, Steven does take Luke finally and walks him up to Nellie's coffin. And he gets kind of stomped himself and goes, yep, she's right there, man. She's right there. Like, and he's about to break the fuck down. Like, it hits him as soon as he looked into the coffin and realized that was his sister. His hard exterior broke. And again, I'll say it again, everybody's broken in this episode. Everybody's fucking broken and just distraught, and everyone's handling it in their own way. And Steven, he was doing good, being, hey Luke, I got you, man, being the strong person that people can lean on. But then you see that moment of weakness, and okay, let me phrase that, not even weakness, because it's not weak to cry when you see someone you love, their dead body. It's not weakness. It's sadness. It's pure, utter sadness. And that's what hit him. He got so upset, just so, choked back by his own words. He had to walk away as he was like, yep, that's her. That's Nellie. But, like I said, you could tell nobody's handling this well. Nellie was the screw that held everybody together. And and now that she's gone, everyone's just crumbling into pieces now. But, during a part, though, when, like I said, Hugh shows up and shit, and he's talking to the kids, there's this really nice camera shot that I enjoy. Now, there's something this episode does a lot, and it's called the circle shot, where it's basically, we're going to focus on Hugh during this conversation, but we're going to, circle around him, and in the background, we see shit. And, of course, when we start the conversation, we're looking at, Hugh looking at all the kids as adults, and then we circle one time, and now we see them all as children, how we see them in the first half of the season, and then we circle back again, and they're all back to normal and shit. But it's nice shots like that really just set the tone, or not really the tone, but the high standard award that I give this fucking episode, because it's just little tricks like that, especially during a one-shot episode. Little tricks like that are really, really neat to see. But yeah, and like I said, why we're doing a little circle shot, it's taking him some time to, hey, how's everybody doing? It's been a while. And he's taking it all in to the fact that this is the first time all these kids have been under the same roof. Even though one of them's dead, this is the first time in a long time all his kids. So for Hugh, this is a big deal. This is a big fucking deal. Granted, it's a big deal for everybody, but for Hugh, this is the biggest deal because he hasn't really spoken to a lot of his kids in, a long while. The way they made it seem like is that majority of them haven't been under the same roofs since, I can't even say Nellie's wedding, because Luke wasn't there. Fucking Shirley turned them away. Okay, so it was after the thing I was talking about with Steven. But, after, we get the circle shot and shit, Hugh ends up talking to himself. And you notice that throughout this episode, Hugh, leans over and goes, yeah, they do look very nice, or, oh, yeah, this is great. But, we don't get to see what he sees, and not until later anyway. But you notice, he's talking to himself, and everybody in the room can notice he's talking to himself. And, right after that, they go to take Luke to go see the body, and Cheryl, takes Hugh aside to, talk to him hey, you got a lovely house. He's trying to have, the awkwardest small talk with her. It's this child he hasn't seen in, years. And so he's trying to have awkward small talk, and it's just awkward as fuck, because he's just this is a lovely house you have, it's beautiful, and she's like, oh yeah, this is not where I live at, this is the business side of the house. Still looks nice though. It's just dude, this is your daughter, hug her, tell her you love her, do something. I get it, she needs space and shit, but come on, man, this awkward small talk is killing me. And then, so after the awkward small talk, they go to see the body, and of course, that's when Steve, yep, that's Nellie and all that shit. And what's interesting about this as well is if you look in the background during a couple of times when they go see Nellie's body, you actually see Nellie's ghost hanging out in the background, just kind of standing there being as creepy as fuck. It's just creepy as fuck. Which is another fun fact about this episode, by the way, guys. There's no hidden ghosts per se like there are in a lot of the other episodes, but the statues in this episode move. So always keep your eye out on the statues during this episode. Never the hidden ghosts, always the statues. But as we got pulled away from the shot of, and we see Nellie in the background. Granted, nobody else sees her, only we as the audience see her, and they're talking and shit. Hugh goes to walk away, and as he's walking away, he ends up walking back into time, which is now back to the past time where we've been at since the summer of the house. And we come in at right as the chandelier's falling at the start of the storm. He was the first one down, and he's like, holy shit, the chandelier, and fucking, Olivia comes down. He's like, what the hell have you been at? She's like, oh, I don't know, but I heard the chandelier. And then fucking, Nellie and them start walking down. And we hear, holy shit, you can't say that, but you just did. Fair enough, but still. And at this point, you starting to realize that the chandelier crash is woken up everybody but Theo in his household, by the way. And that's when this hail starts happening. So, they're trying to keep the kids calm, trying to, make it feel better about, especially the storm, because it's very loud, lightning and thundering is just going on. Like, this is a very intense storm. I'm not gonna lie, it's like hurricane weather storm. They say just like a regular old storm, like a regular old, flash of thunder and lightning. No, this is like a fucking hurricane tornado made a baby kind of storm. It's fucking ridiculous, hail and all. But as they're trying to calm the kids down, they hear like a crashing sound, and fucking Theo just walks out of a room nonchalantly and says, something just crashed through my window. I'm okay though, but it's damn cold in this house. So Hugh goes to check on the window, see what the damage is, and Steve is like, hey Dad, let me come with you, because at this point in the story, Steve has got this, not unhealthy obsession, but just this like weird, I want to tag along with Dad mentality going on with him. And I think it's just mainly because he wants to show his dad that he too also can be the man of the house and help out and all. Because you see that especially during, I want to say it's episode 7, I could be wrong. But at a later point when we're in the past time and Hugh's talking to Mr. Dudley and trying to take care of this mold problem and shit. Steve tries to help out the entire time. It's really cute, but it becomes, I don't know. I don't have kids, so I really can't put too much faith into it. And I'm gonna be honest, I never really chased my mother around like that. Wanted to be like mom, wanted to be on mom's ass. I never really did that. So it could just be a kid thing, just wanting to be around Dad and stuff. But the point is, Steve goes with Hugh, and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. I'm not saying Olivia has favorites here when it comes to children, but you can clearly tell she's got favorites. Not only is that locket she had only had pictures of Nellie and Luke in there, but during the storm, she's covered. She's got both the arms around, Nellie and Luke, and she's like, "It'll be okay, kids." Hey Thea, why don't you go into the kitchen and make your sister and brother some cocoa? Shirley, you go too. It's just like, Theo and Shirley's just like, what the fuck? Like, why do we gotta go? Just do it for your siblings. They love you. They're scared. It's just like, that's some bullshit. That's okay. But while they're, the kids go and take care of the cocoa and shit, we get this little cute thing where Nellie and her mom were talking about the thunderstorm and about how you can count how far away a thunderstorm is by the sound of thunder. I think, it's the flash of lightning, then the sound of thunder. I think for each one is like a certain miles away. I can't really remember the full detail of it. I'm sure you can Google it, look it up. It's an old wise thing people do, hell, even still nowadays, to calculate how long a storm's gonna pass. But, you know, as they're doing the little counting thing and shit, the lights go out. So, of course, all the kids come running on in. Oh, my God, you know, so scared, all this shit. So, Hugh comes out, and he, you know, comes down from the, upstairs, and he's like, all right, let's get these flashlights. We're going to, you know, make sure everything's good. Theo, hold your sister's hand. So Theo holds Nellie's hand. Everybody else kind of circles around the floor to start trying to power out these flashlights and shit. And again, we get this really nice circle shot while we're just having a nonchalant conversation about everything. You know, about just the terrible weather, about how weird this is, about how, you know, the storm's knocked out. Hopefully everything will be okay at the end. But in the midst of this, Nellie goes missing. Like, Nellie straight up just, poof, vanishes out of thin fucking air. Like, she's literally holding her sister's hand and then, poof, just gone. Just fucking, like, even Theo's just like, she was standing right here. Like, what the fuck? Where did she go? And this starts a whole hunt looking for Nellie. Nellie's missing now. And, you know, Luke is, you know, kind of panicking because he's, you know, worried about his sister. He's just like, well, where'd she go? You know, what's going on? And Steven, being the big brother he is, you know, bends down. He's just like, Luke, don't be scared, man. You know, she's going to be okay. I'm here if you need anything. And in the process of having this, we then cut back to the present time. And they're all sitting around in front of the coffin in the pews. And they're passing stories about Nellie. And Theo, I think it's Luke was talking about the Puffalope, or was it Stephen? I can't remember which sibling it was, but they start talking about the Puffalope thing, where the aunt would get mad at Nellie because she wouldn't call them the right envelope, and she wanted a Puffalope, a puffy envelope, and she would write, you know, letters to Santa and send them in her little puffalope because her mom would say they would reach Santa safely in puffalopes. So after that story, Hugh proceeds to tell a story about Nellie's, basically Nellie's Santa's wish list. You know, instead of asking shit for herself, all her gifts, or all the things she wanted, were gifts for her siblings. Like, she never wanted just something for herself. She's like, oh, get Luke this, get Steven that, get Theo this, get Shirley that. And while we're doing all this, again, we're like bouncing back and forth with the camera view. We look at Steven, and we cut down the Hugh, and then we go over to Shirley, Theo, and no, it was Shirley. I'm sorry, my bad. And then Shirley makes a comment saying she wishes Nellie would have talked to her more, that she wished that Nellie would have called her a lot more, that she's sorry that she missed that first phone call from her. And that's when Luke then proceeds to tell a story about how they were camping out in the backyard one day. And while they were camping out, Steven, being a fucking jerk big brother, came out there saying he was a big angry bear, and he was like playing on the tent and stuff. And Nellie, you know, stuck her chest out, was just like, go away, you big mean bear. And he's like, well, what if I don't want to go away? Well, you're gonna go away anyway, because fuck you, basically. Basically is the story. But because of this ends up starting an argument between Steve and Hugh about everything. Like, they start literally laying it out. Like, they're like, okay, Hugh, we're done. But I do like how we start this whole scene off with talking about these beautiful, precious stories about Nellie growing up, you know, the Puffalope thing, the camping story and all that. And then these beautiful stories just end so abruptly, just so dramatically, just done over straight into the fighting. And that's how it really is during a funeral procession. I hate to say it, I've been in plenty of funerals. I've seen how quickly it can dissolve into madness. It could literally be, like, you know, 1 minute you're, oh my God, I just love him so much. What the fuck you doing, Charlie? Fuck you, you know, just, you know, it literally could, it could be that bad. It really could be that bad. So I give the actors and writer credibility that they made this so dramatic to the point that it didn't feel over dramatic, but it felt real. It felt real because it felt like a situation we've all been in one time and another. And something, again, I would like to add about the audio in this particular episode is there's no music, by the way. BTW, guys. There's no music, like, at all. It's not until, like, the end of the episode when something happens and thus the music picks up. But for this entire episode, all we hear is them arguing, talking, drinking, and the sound of the thunderstorm in the background. Everything else is just quiet. It's just quiet. But because, you know, they, you know, start fighting and shit, he asks, you know, Hugh straight up, he's like, Dad, tell us the truth, you know, tell us what's going on. So Hugh lays out, yeah, the house is evil, the house killed your mother, the house killed your sister, the house, just blaming the house and fucking Steve. Ended up, you know, wrapping this around because Steve, again, I think I said it last week, Steve's very logical. Steve's very realistic. He believes everything that's happening in this family has nothing to do with the damn house. That has everything to do with mental illness. You know, Mom was mentally ill. Nellie was mentally ill. I mean, look at what they did. Look at what's going on. And of course, you know, she was bucking back, you know, going, hey, you don't know what's, you know, what you're talking about. You have no clue. Oh, you know, coming from the man who has no clue, you wouldn't tell us jack shit. And this just goes on like a very lengthy argument. I'm not even gonna lie. Because they talk about, you know, everything that builds up to, you know, her leading to her death, you know, the phone calls that start bouncing back and forth and blaming each other. Just, well, she called me. Well, if you would have answered your phone, she wouldn't have called me. Well, why didn't you? You know, it becomes like this whole, well, if she did this, why did she do, and basically leading up and building up to why she wound up at the house killing herself. And it all boils down to the fact that she was just unhappy. The house made her miserable, and so she wanted to confront the miserable being. Like, and everybody agreed, though, that fucking psychiatrist of her, he's a dick. He's a dick. Nobody liked him. Even Theo, granted, Theo didn't like him to begin with, but Theo made it a real, you know, hey, man, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I have a PhD. This motherfucker clearly don't. But, you know, because, you know, like I said, they're building everything up, you know, okay, if this led to her death, you know, this could have been, you know, solved, and they end up pointing fingers and arguing and shit, and they ended up all going into these other rooms, you know, because everyone's just getting more drinks as they're arguing, so making the tension rise even higher. It's not even just, like, basic anger, it's now drunk basic anger. And then Theo, this is where, like, one of the funniest moments from Theo ends up happening. But Theo and her drunken rant about the whole situation, going, none of this makes sense, da-da-da-da. She goes to sit on the arm of the chair, and she completely misses the sofa arm entirely and just falls down and hits the ground. And everyone, of course, is like, oh my God, Theo, are you all right? And they go to touch her. And because of her power, she doesn't want anyone touching her, so she just yells at them, you know, don't touch me, everyone just get the fuck away from me. And she hops up. And then this is when the biggest shit goes down. So as soon as she gets up, Shirley tells Theo to grow the fuck up, or something along on the lines of grow the fuck up. You know, you can't hold your alcohol, you're drunk, go to bed, basically. And then that's when it all comes out about the fucking money. Like, all of it. Like, I'm talking about the point that she, I forgot who said it. No, I think Theo said she took the money, and thus they started arguing about, oh, so you gonna take the money and not come in, you took the money and you came into my house and got all these free handouts from me and blah, 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 bullshit, you know, fuck you, you're a terrible sister, da-da-da-da. And then Steven tried to chime in, she told Steve to shut the fuck up, so she starts arguing with Steve about the blood money, and then out of nowhere, fucking Shirley's husband comes out and goes, we can't say shit because we took the money. And she gets quiet and she looks at him. And he's like, listen, you've been causing us severe debt. Like, you have been slashing prices to the point that we can't afford to keep our fucking doors open. So I took the money to save our business. And then she... Now, I will say this about Shirley. I hate her in this episode. I'm not gonna lie. I hate her in this episode because her fucking, like... I don't want to say hypocrite, but she's straight up hypocrite. We're going to just, okay, let me straight up be honest. She's a hypocrite. She's over there pissed as fuck at Theo for taking this money and then saying all this horrible shit about her fucking husband taking the money. But yet, she's the one that broke the most sacred vow ever. And she had an illicit affair with a man that was married. So I'm gonna be honest, everything Shirley has to say in this fucking episode, I could give two shits less because it's just a woman grasping at straws trying to keep control of a situation she does not have control of. And like I said, she is a control freak. She needs to control the situation because she can't. She ends up lashing out and telling everyone to get the fuck out. She's like, you can go to a hotel. You can move out. You just get the fuck out of my way. And she's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Like, you have no right. You honestly have no fucking right. Especially to say that shit towards your husband. And all he did was keep your business afloat because you made terrible decisions in your money, using your money. You broke a fucking vow and cheated on your husband. Granted, two wrongs don't make a right because of the fact that he should have told her about the money, but I get why, because she was so gun-ho about no one taking the fucking money, but they were in a tight situation. They needed the money. They needed that money to help them stay afloat. So everything fucking she's got to say in this situation, I want to strangle her. I just want to strangle her and call her a fucking cunt. That's literally what I want to call her. She's a fucking cunt. So, after that big blowout and shit, they go to walk back towards Nellie's coffin. That's when they realize she's got buttons on her eyes. And my roommate asked me about this, and he was just like, I don't get the button thing. I'm like, well, in some cultures, putting money on the eyes of the dead, helps them pay for the ferryman across their way. But because they're buttons, I'm assuming it has something to do not only paying the ferryman, but it's just something Nell-light. It's something Nelly-light. But while they're arguing about who put the buttons on her eyes, because, no one knows how the fuck they got there, and of course Shirley's, blaming everybody because, Shirley's being a fucking bitch right now. The fucking lights go out, because of course the lights go out in this situation, especially when tensions are rising and no one can breathe. I'm gonna turn all the fucking lights out. And as soon as the lights go out, everyone splits off except for Hugh, who's just standing there, and he hears Nellie go, Daddy? And he turns, or let me rephrase that. The camera pans across the room, and we see Nellie's ghost standing there. And then we pan back to fucking Hugh, and he goes to walk after her, and then we have another beautiful transition of them going back to the past. And one thing I will say about this episode as well, another thing I'll say about this episode, is this is the only episode where you can actually get a somewhat decent idea of the layout of the house. I'm not saying like the best of the best detail planning of a blueprint, but this does help because it does narrow down the rooms upstairs. Because I want to say the way me and boyfriend looked at it last week is it's a 2-story house, a basement, and an attic. So we had like the main room, which is the kitchen, laundry room, the foyer, that nice living room, and a library and all that shit, and then upstairs the amount of kids' rooms. Now, you can't get a full detailed look, but it does kind of help you get a layout of the house. It's to a degree. But, while we go back to that time, they still can't find Nellie. They're looking everywhere, and they're realizing that this house is literally falling apart. Like, the fucking roof is leaking. They didn't shut the fucking valve all the way in the chimney or whatever. So, that's leaking. Everything's just falling apart. And we're looking at Olivia during this time because she's walked off to the other side of the house. And Olivia, she's turned off the chimney. And as she's walking out of this room, you see Hazel's ghost in the background on her bed. And then she goes to open up another door, and there's the little boy in the wheelchair. And he goes strolling, rolling on out, you know, minding his own business. And then we cut to Hugh. We pan over to back to the opening of the foyer, and there's Hugh coming in going, Olivia, and Olivia's not there. All that's left there is her fucking flashlight. So now Olivia's missing. Great, so now we lost Nellie and we lost Olivia. Fantastic. So, while Hugh's trying to, look for her and shit, he goes back to the one side of the house where the red door is at, and as he's going around the hallway, the L-shaped hallway, you'll notice he gets to the end of the hallway and there's nothing there. It's just literally another window. And as you look at the layouts and think about the layout of the house, this window makes no sense because it's facing inwards. Inwards towards the house. Not outwards, facing away from the house, but it's facing inwards. But Hugh don't think much of it, so Hugh continues on. And as he's walking back, all the windows just start fucking shattering. Just everywhere. All of them, like down this hallway, all of them just started just shatter, like one at a time, not even one at a time, just all going. And he fucking runs out and comes around the corner and sees Olivia standing in front of another window. And she it's like an Exodus 3 moment. She just opens up her arms and the fucking window smashes and glass goes everywhere and the fucking wind's coming through. And he's screaming, Olivia! And then, it's gone. Just poof. The window's back fixed. Olivia's still missing. Let me rephrase that. The window is back normal. Olivia's right back where her flashlight was. And he's like, Olivia, where the fuck you been at? And she's just like, I have no fucking clue, to be perfectly honest. And then, of course, the kids hear something. And, so they go downstairs to go investigate. And they're like, kids, what's wrong? And they're saying that they saw a creature that was on all four legs, but it had red glowing eyes. I'm assuming that particular ghost was probably one of the dogs, because Jacob, this is something I learned when we went back and I can't talk right this second. When me and my roommate went back and was reading those stories about Jacob Hill, the creator of the house, the master of the house, he had his love for his dogs. Apparently, he said those dogs are supposed to be his legacy. To the point that when Jacob died, Hazel, his daughter, took it upon herself to kill these dogs. So the dogs we hear are Jacob's dogs. So I'm assuming what the kids saw was Jacob's dogs. Like, that's his legacy. Like, as long as the dogs roam the property, Jacob Hill will always be there. But before they can, get too far into that, Nellie reappears. Nellie just comes out of nowhere, and they're like, oh my God, Nellie, where the fuck you been at? Oh my God, we're so worried about you. And you notice, as this happens, the storm lightens up outside. It's still storming, but it ain't as bad as it was with the fucking hail and the shattering windows and shit. And the saddest thing is, Nellie's sitting there going, why couldn't y'all see me? I was there. Why couldn't y'all see me? I was jumping, I was waving around, but no one could see me. I was screaming. And of course, everyone's just like, we're just glad you're here and stuff. But poor Nellie, she is so traumatized. She's just like, I was just saying, screaming for y'all, and y'all just didn't see me. Like, that's gotta be sad. That's like a sad way to go as a ghost. Like, imagine that as a ghost. You're a ghost. You're very well aware of the fact that you're a ghost, but yet no one can see you. That's basically what she probably felt like too. Was just being like a ghost. So after we have that beautiful little moment and shit, we go back to the present time where all the bullshit's going on, and Hugh and Luke are talking about the BitNet lady. When we get back to the, because Hugh and Luke are standing over Nellie's coffin while the lights are still off, and Luke straight up asked him, do you believe in the BitNet lady? He's like, yes. Do you believe she killed her? Yes. And before, Luke asked him any more questions, the lights come back on. And, no, wait, the lights are still off because Steve ends up coming back and really hammers in the mental illness factor. he really just tries to drive that shit home. Like, it was just the mental illness of mom. You failed to notice that she needed help. You failed her, not us. You know, just going off on, about just Hugh just completely ignoring the fact that she had mental illness. You know, I'll put air quotes around that because we all know Olivia wasn't crazy. We all know this. Olivia was not crazy. Nellie wasn't crazy. Nobody in that house was crazy. That house was just fucking evil. But again, that adds a good theory to the whole show, especially during this last half, because the first half, again, is all told from the kids' perspective. This last half is actually told in the perspective of Olivia and Hugh. So we get to see how they dealt with the situation. And you notice through Hugh's episodes, he's very logical because he's so wrapped up in just fixing this house because he could fix it, he could keep fixing it, that he doesn't see the obvious factors. And you as the audience, you know, watching the show can determine whether or not do you believe the kids with their perspectives on the ghosts and the hauntings and the crazy dogs and the fucking weird noises, or do you believe Hugh, who's just watching his wife go crazy, he tries to help, fails miserably, and ends up losing his kids. And he ends up losing money and got probably his business. Like, who the hell knows what else he lost because of this damn house. Like, not only did he lose his family, but who knows what the hell else he lost. But, like I said, Steve's really hammering on the fact that it was mental illness. And, you know, Hugh lets them know, you know, it wasn't mental illness. Like, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. It was the house, damn it. The house drove her to do it. The house drove Nellie to do it. And while they're arguing about, you know, whether it was mental illness or the ghost stuff, Nellie, in some weird way, kind of stopped the argument. I want to say it's Nellie. Like, it would be weird if it wasn't Nellie, but the coffin falls over and it goes quiet. It goes pure quiet. And the reason why I say it's Nellie is because throughout, I know this episode, you know, she shows up periodically and, you know, she's there to, you know, kind of be seen by her dad. But during, not the next episode, but the episode after, Nellie comes in again to stop an argument. Basically, she's trying to stop arguments between her family. She gets that, you know, everybody's hurting right now, but the argument's got to stop. So I feel like the coffin being knocked over is Nellie basically telling them, hey guys, quit fucking arguing. I'm still here. We're good. Let's just deal with the situation. And this is also when we have like I don't really know how to describe this. It's basically something a lot of children feel when, you know, a parent they really, really love dies and the one that they kind of give like secondhand crap about doesn't. But Steve, before the coffin falls, says the wrong parent died. And of course, that's when the coffin falls and we get like this total moment of silence. And you kind of got to take in what Steve just said. The wrong parent died. That is one of the most cruelest things you can say to your parent that's still alive. That is the cruelest thing you can say. And you can see it on Hugh's face. When he says those lines, you can see the pain on Hugh's face when he's just like, the wrong parent died. And it's just, you feel him. You feel him. And you can feel Steve too, because I personally can't say, because I've never lost a parent. I've never had, you know, arguments like that with my mom. You know, I've never really had any kind of ill will towards my biological father or anything like that. So I can't really say that. But from my understanding from some of my friends who have had parents that have died, and, you know, it was like I hate to say it, like my boyfriend, his mom died. And he loves his dad, don't get me wrong. He loves his dad. His dad is like his fucking hero. But his mom was everything to him. And he said some unsavory things when him and his dad got in an argument. And I'm not going to go into detail what was said, but I've seen that look that Hugh gave, and I've seen that look on the same look on Eric's dad's face. Granted, they've hashed it out, they apologized for what they've said and shit, but I've seen that look. That is some grade 8 acting from, who plays Hugh again? Older Hugh, not younger Hugh, by the way. Hang on, go. 15 pages of notes, guys. I'm not even joking. 15 pages of notes. Here we go. Where's my casting list? You would think with as many notes as I have, I'll be more organized, but I am not organized at all. Timothy. Yes, Timothy Houghton. He plays the older version of Hugh, but he does a great job here in that scene. But once we have that moment of silence, this is when the first key music ever pops in this episode. Like, this is the only time we get music, and it's right when everybody gets up and they're basically picking up Nellie's body, and they're trying to just like straighten her out and shit. And while we dip away from that moment, because the lights have already come back on after the argument, and the boys are upstairs, Shirley's downstairs, and as she's opening a door, she sees Theo basically trying to make lips with her husband. And she doesn't say anything. She just goes, closes the door and walks the fuck out. And like I said earlier, guys, everything she has said and are doing in this episode is she's a fucking bitch about it. She's a hypocrite, and this is one of those moments. She's gonna sit there and look at Theo and her husband and go, oh yeah, clearly Theo was trying to make moves on my husband. Well, fuck this bitch, and walk off. But yet she ain't gonna make the mention of the fact that she fucked another dude and has yet to tell her husband, by the way. She has had the secret affair. Granted, it was one time. But she's mad at him for not even something that was his fault. Like, nothing even happened. Like, it's explained nothing really happened during the situation. And when we get to that moment, because that is a powerful fucking monologue. I'm not gonna lie, it's a powerful monologue. But, when they, she starts walking away, and we kind of end on the note of the storm lighting up, and everyone just like, all right, guys, let's just go home. Everyone just go home. It's been a rough night. Let's just all walk away. And as we're walking away, we hear Nellie, saying, no one could see me. Nobody heard me. And you just hear it's that little Nellie too, not big Nellie, little Nellie. And you just hear her just say, no one could see me. And it's just dead quiet after you hear that, and we end that episode. Like I said, guys, it's hands down my favorite fucking episode because it's just well directed, it's well written, it's a well crafted story. Granted, the whole show was like this, but this particular episode just makes me want to make sweet, passionate love to whoever did this particular episode. Like, I'm being dead serious. Whoever created this episode, I'm coming to each and every one of y'all's houses, and we're making love. Each of us. Like, I don't even care if some of us watch. We're all making love in this group orgy here. Like, no joke, my dude. No joke. Alright, so we have now on to episode 7, which is the Hugh episode. And this episode, I actually like this one too. Granted, again, guys, I know I keep saying it, I like all these episodes, but this episode's really good because of something Mr. Dudley tells Hugh during the pastime. But this one is called Eulogy, which, again, represents basically Nell's funeral. Nell's eulogy, because Luke gives a beautiful, saddened speech at the end, and I'll talk about it when we get there. But we have our opening, which is Hugh talking to the police officers after the incident of the house, when they all left and fled during the night, and he's talking to this cop. Now, I want to say this cop has got to be one of the nicest cops I've ever seen in the show. Like, this man's just like, hey, man, you all right, man? You want some coffee? You want me to get you some cream and sugar for that? Like, you okay? You want me to turn the heat up for you? Like, dude, offer me a foot massage. I'll tell you what the fuck you want, man. Dude, super nice, though. Super nice. But, once we get done with that, we, opening credits, all that shit, blah, blah, blah. Then we cut back to now time, which is Hugh getting ready for the funeral. And you see Hugh, talking about his ties and shit. He's having that same issue that he was having in the last episode where he can't figure out what to fucking wear. And of course, you hear him the entire time going, yeah, no, the blue tie looks good. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, it's good. What about this jacket? This jacket look good. And you're like, well, who the fuck's he talking to? And what's going on here? And Hugh, once he gets done and gets ready to leave, he goes to Shirley's house. And of course, Shirley's still being the biggest bitch of the whole show, just being cold as fuck towards Hugh, not saying jack shit. Shirley's husband comes home, and she's just very fucking short. Like, the funeral's at 7. Until then, we're closed. Get out. Just get out. I'm just like, bitch. You and my sister. Bitch slap. Bitch slap real fuck. I would choke her out. I'm not even gonna lie. I would choke her out. Like, Shirley's is that type of woman. If she was my sibling, I would choke her out. Just so she would fucking listen. That would be the only way she would fucking listen to my family, if I would just choke that bitch out. I know, I'm very violent. But while you see Shirley being a fucking cunt, you finally see what the hell Hugh's been talking to. And of course, Hugh's been talking to Olivia. Now, don't get me wrong. No, don't get excited now going, oh, Olivia's ghost. That's what the show originally wants you to think, is that Hugh's talking to Olivia's ghost. And it's not necessarily like her spirit, like the one trapped at the house. It's like a manifestation of Olivia, if that makes any sense. It's basically Hugh basically lets Olivia kind of live through him in some aspects. He doesn't create an alternate version of Olivia where it's like everything he wants to hear or everything he wants her to say. It's literally everything he knows Olivia would say. So in this manifestation, it's really her. To him, it's really her. And he even acknowledges the fact that he talks to her and he knows it's impossible. But this is him dealing with the grief of the loss of his wife. You know, he created another Olivia to help him cope with life. And she helped, and she fucking helps, don't get me wrong. It's not like she gives shitty advice or anything like that. She actually gives really great advice as a figment of his imagination. Then we cut back to past time, them cleaning up after the storm, they're looking at the damages. And it's bad. It's bad. Like, the entire hallway leading to that red room. Oh, yeah, like I said, all those windows shattered, smashed, tree limbs through it, fucking rocks, hail, it's water, damage everywhere. It looks bad. It looks real bad. This house fucking sucks. And Steve's walking around up there, and Steve puts his hand on the wall, and it's really squishy. Like, really, really squishy. And, of course, Hugh goes into fucking, like, home improvement mode and goes, okay, that ain't good now. That ain't good. And, of course, he says this epic, famous line. Oh, I could fix this. I got this shit. Yeah, Hugh, you totally got this shit. So they go to investigate, and they determine that the mold has dripped down all the way to the basement. And in the basement, while they're examining this, they keep hearing little scratches. Like, it sounds like little rats. Just little sounds like that. But, he was just thinking the rats, no big deal. He's going to fix this, so we're going to keep going. So then we cut back yet again to the present time, and this is when we actually have this really nice moment between Hugh and Theo. Hugh goes up to Theo's house to go check on her, especially after the incident of last night. And she tells him basically the truth. She actually opens up to her dad and tells him the truth. She fucked up. She's like, Dad, I fucked up. And I don't know what to do. She goes to try to explain, but she can't really explain because it's really hard to explain what she went through. And again, when we get to the monologue, you'll understand her pain. But Hugh understands, and he's listening to Olivia give him advice to tell her. And in the end of the whole conversation, Theo ends up getting along with Hugh, and she apologizes for everything. She's like, Dad, I've been a really shitty daughter to you. Like, I shouldn't have done what I've done to you, and I'm sorry for that, and I'm sorry for everything. And I think that's a great moment. That's a great moment that all the kids are finally seeing their dad face to face after all this time, and are finally able to tell them how they really feel. And Theo really feels remorse and guilt for the whole situation. Like, she loves her dad. I mean, granted, he wasn't the easiest man to get along with in that damn house, don't get me wrong. Trust me, the man wouldn't even believe the shit in his fucking face It's not till it wasn't until that fucking last night that's when he started believing shit's gone down for real. But, you know, before then it was, oh, well, the kids are just telling cute little stories. They're just scared by nothing. No, after that night, though, oh, yeah, no, that house is fucked up, my dude. That house is fucked up. So, we then cut back to, you know, past time again of Olivia and Hugh, you know, trying to figure out the water system in the house, because it makes no sense that the storm would cause this much mold and water damage from one night. And you also find out from Mrs. Dudley, by the way, that during the storm, it was like a gentle breeze where they were at, you know, where they were at in the town, in the village. It's just a normal old storm. Something about the storm at the house, though, it became like a fucking tornado and a hurricane baby making a situation going on in there. I'm just saying. That was a fucked up storm. But apparently, they were the only ones really, really infected by the storm. And so because, you know, they're trying to figure out all this water damage and shit, they gotta get the blueprints of the house. Well, the thing is, there's no set blueprints of this house. Apparently, there's, like, some sketches here and there. There's a couple of, you know, little maps, layouts of the house, but nothing concrete or confirmed, because hell, they didn't even have the bootleg. I was trying to think of the word, bootlegging basement in the basement. And then they had that on the blueprint, but again, why would you put a bootlegging operation on the blueprint? Frankly, I would, because I'm that type of stupid bitch that want to be that organized in some aspects. Just, where exactly do we want this bootlegging operation? In this basement right here. You see that room? Yep, that's the room. That's the room. But, you know, so Olivia takes it upon herself. Okay, well, you know what? I'll take these sketches. I'll take what I can, and I'm going to see if I can't make a master blueprint of this entire fucking house. And then they tried to estimate, you know, how much this is going to cost, and it ain't looking good, my dude. It ain't looking good. Like, we're talking about roof damages, water damage, mold damage. You know, they're talking about the fucking, you know, needing the equipment to dry out, you know, all the mold and the wetness and the fucking chemicals and shit they're going to need. Like, that's a lot of fucking money. That's a lot of money they don't really have to spend. This house is literally draining their bank account and their insanity. So then we cut back again to the present time, and Mom is giving Hugh, or let me phrase that, Olivia is giving Hugh advice about the whole, you know, how to deal with the the funeral and shit, because, you know, everyone's slowly showing up for the funeral, and of course he sees several family members he really don't care for. Mainly, I think, I want to say Ain't what's her face? Fucking Olivia's sister. The one that raised the kids. I can never think of the Ain't bitch's name, but Ain't bitch, she shows up. And of course, you know, like I said, Olivia's trying to give advice like, now be nice, you know, you don't want to do anything to, you know, to upset everything. It's all going good, you know, everything's looking great, it looks nice. You know, we're doing fine, Hugh, you're doing fine, I'm doing fine. The kids are just the kids, they'll be alright, you know. And while he's talking to Luke, because he ends up sitting down next to Luke and, you know, trying to console him about the situation, fucking Theo comes in. She's hung over like a bitch, and Luke tells her the joke about the best cure for a hangover is smack. To be perfectly honest, the best cure is smack. I'm like, that's not good advice to give, my dude. Like, Luke, you should stick with your beer and tomato juice thing. That's a cure I'm willing to try. Smack, though, no, that's not a hangover cure I'm willing to try. But while they're talking about that, I think her name is Trish, the Asian girl Theo picked up at that nightclub during her episode. She shows up, and of course, you know, she's all apologetic, like, hey, listen, I'm sorry to drop out in the blue, but I heard your sister died. I wanted to be here to support you. And fucking, you know, Theo, you straight up snaps, goes, if I wanted you here, I would have invited you here, and da-da-da-da. And then realized she might have crossed the line during her arguments and went, you know what, never mind, I'm sorry. And then, like, walks the fuck off. Like, this poor girl, she's going through so much turmoil right now. And again, this all builds up to this amazing fucking monologue she ends up having at some point. But, you know, like I said, everyone's showing up with Aunt Janet. Aunt Janet, that's her fucking name. Aunt Janet's right here in my notes. So, you know, after Aunt Janet shows up and Olivia gives a little bit of advice, we then cut back to the past time yet again, and Olivia brings Hugh the master blueprints. She's all excited, just, I finally got it, dearie, here they are. And then Hugh, of course, opens it. Now, we as the audience don't get to see it, but he takes a look at it, and he's just like, oh, well, this... oh. Like, that's all his look says. It's just, oh. Like, it doesn't really explain what the oh is. It's just, oh. Like, oh, okay. So, you know, once we get done with that little tidbit, we jump back to the funeral and present time. And we have Luke basically being the first person to speak at her funeral about everything. And he talks about one of the times she dropped him off at rehab, and one of his favorite things she ever said to him was she gave him a hug and said, you go in there and you bring me back my brother. You bring me back my brother. And he did. And he did. For 90 days, he was sober. And still, even still after 90 days, he was still sober. He didn't have a single fucking drink that in that last episode. I will say that. Luke was the only guy in that whole episode that didn't drink. And that shows his character development right there, from what he used to be as a drug addict to someone who actually, well, wanted to bring her Nellie's brothers back. But he does this very beautiful speech, you know, just about just Nellie and how she was everything to him, and how he wanted to do better for her, that he realized he needed to do better for her. And then once we get done with, you know, his beautiful speech, we cut back again to everybody kind of worried about Olivia. Mr. Dudley and Hugh were down in the basement cleaning, you know, getting everything situated for the mold and shit. They realized that it spread down into the basement. And he brings up the fact that Olivia made the master blueprints, and they don't look right. They don't look good. And Mr. Dudley starts, you know, saying, you know, maybe you need to get her out of this house. And he starts telling a couple of stories. He proceeds to talk about, you know, his life at the house and how he was born here at the Hill House. And how, you know, him and his mother lived in that little cottage where him and his wife live at now. And at night, his mother would come back from work and she would just be so, and his exact words were shattered. She would be shattered. And she would wander into the woods late at night and like she was talking to somebody, being courted, you know, talking to a suitor. And she would giggle and shit. All the way up even to like her deathbed, basically. She would go out there and talk to someone at the edge of the wood lines. And, you know, it worried about him. And then when he met Clara was like the life of his life. They even got married on the grounds of the house. And the same thing started happening to her. She was coming back shattered from the house, because she was spending like days in this house, not just you know a couple hours, you know, maybe a day. I'm talking about days, because this is around the time Hazel was sick, you know, because she's up in her old age and Hazel's dying. So Mrs. Dudley, you know, had to take care of her, and she was always at the house. She was just always there. So it kind of drove her a little fucking crazy, even while she was pregnant. She was like 9 months pregnant, and she still worked to the bone throughout this time. And then she ends up giving birth in the house, and it's stillborn. And when you know it, as soon as that happened, not even a month later, she was back on her feet, just back to work at the house, just every day. And then after that, though, his wife started acting really, really weird. You know, she was having these nightmares, terrible, like seething nightmares. Like she would thrash around, you know, kind of push him out the bed and stuff. And, you know, eventually he's just like, what's going on? You know, what's happening? She keeps telling him, I hear our baby. I hear our baby at the house. And he's just like, you know what? Maybe you're just overworked, you're overtired. You got to get out of that house. And she goes, no, no, no. I hear our baby at the house. So one night, she takes Mr. Dudley to the house while they're cleaning. Everything's normal. And then suddenly he hears it. The cry of the baby. He can't find it, and neither can she. And they spent all night looking for this cry and couldn't find it, but they both heard it. And that is when they agreed. Hey, maybe we shouldn't come back to this house after night. And that is what they stuck to. After that incident with the baby crying, they never came back to the house at night. After night, they don't show up till morning. It's the whole routine. Nobody comes here in the night, in the dark. Nobody. Not even the Dudleys. They don't want to. They don't want to deal with it because they know something's here. But he's adamant on telling Hugh, you need to get Olivia out this house. Just for a couple of days. Just a little bit. Because she's starting to act shattered. That means you might want to start worrying. And Hugh, he actually takes this to heart. He really starts thinking about it. But, you know, Hugh being Hugh, he's like, we'll worry about that later. You know, right now, she's a little scattered. You know, she'll be all right. And then we cut back to the present time, and everyone's getting ready to go bury Nell, so they're all picking cars to get into. And fucking Shirley, of course, being the fucking cunt of the bunch. She goes to go into one car. Oh, there's Theo. No, I'll take the next car. She goes to get in the next car. Oh, there's her husband. No. I'll find a ride somewhere else. And fucking all the cars leave. Except for Hugh. Except for fucking Hugh. And Hugh's just like, hey, ride with me. Come on, ride with me. So she does. She ends up riding with Hugh. And once, you know, she gets to the car, we cut back again to the the past time. And Hugh is drying out all the mold and shit. And why he's getting everything situated, he looks at Steve and goes, Steve, go ahead and unplug the fan from the outlet so I can fix this, because he thinks the guy who came over here to do an estimate on how much clear this mold's going to be, he thinks the guy gave him busted equipment because the dude, he didn't want to pay the dude to come in, and so he thinks the dude's just bitter and just like, well, here's some busted equipment. So he's trying to clean the equipment. And while he's cleaning the equipment, the fan turns on and gets him in his hand, and of course he looks back and the plug is still in the plug, even though Steve is very adamant he took the plug out. So he basically tells Steven, you know, why don't you go upstairs and play? I got this. You know, you take care of this. And, you know, Steve, of course, is like, but Dad, I want to help. Please let me help. And he goes, okay, buddy, here's what you could do. You know, I need your help watching your siblings while your mom's away, because your mom just needs to break out of this house. She's been in here all summer, cooped up. She needs to leave, so I'm just going to need your help. And, of course, Steve is like, you got it, Dad. I got you. And runs upstairs. And fucking Hugh, he's losing it. He starts fucking losing it. So he cleans his hand up. Well, not really cleans it up, but he wraps it up. And he is so pissed. You know, the fact that this mold's coming out everywhere. Fucking Mr. Dudley just told him the story. You know, the house just basically attacked him with a goddamn fan. So he goes upstairs to the red room and he proceeds to beat the fucking door. Like I'm talking about, he's taking a crowbar and he's trying to pull it off his hinges, and he keeps punching the door. And this door won't open, by the way. This door just will not fucking open. But this man is determined to get in this room, and it just will not budge. And his hand is just bleeding profusely at this point. Because he's just fucking losing it. Because he knows, he's like, all the mold's gotta be coming from this room. But yeah, he's the only motherfucker who can't get into this room. Everybody else, free game. Everybody else can walk in and out, no problem. This guy, though, no, Hugh can't walk in. So then, once Hugh has a little freak out, we go back to the present time with Hugh and Cheryl in the car, and they're trying to have a better conversation than that awkward small talk they had yesterday. And, of course, he doesn't listen to Olivia when they're talking, and he keeps kind of pushing, like, hey, maybe you need to talk to Theo, maybe you need the bad guy. And, of course, Olivia's ghost in the background is just like, don't push it, don't do it. And, of course, he pushes it, and she, kind of snaps on him and goes, you know what, Dad, mind your own fucking business, Shirley being Shirley. And of course, Hugh just kind of looks in the rearview mirror, and Olivia's ghost is back there like, told you, shouldn't have pushed. But they finally get they get to the graveyard, and of course they're putting all the dirt, doing the whole thing of ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and right when Luke does it, he goes to walk away and he hears something, and it's Nellie. And he looks up and he sees Nellie standing there, and then he looks down when he hears someone say his name, and it's his mother in the coffin grabbing his arm, trying to pull him in, by the way. Just like, no, stay with me, please, just stay with me. And he fucking freaks out and he backs up, and Steve of course comes in and he goes, hey man, keep yourself together, yeah. Just, I wish he did. That would have been funny as fuck. Just keep yourself together, man. But no, he grabs me and goes, hey, man, you need to calm down. And he's just like, I just saw Mom in the coffin. And he's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't, Luke. You did not see a fucking ghost. It's just our goddamn DNA. And he, kind of, not pushes him back, but kind of like steps back from him and like storms off. Like, poor Luke. Just poor Luke. Like, this man can't catch a break. Like, he was a drug addict for so long. Now he's seen ghosts just like Nellie, and now no one believes him just like Nellie. And it's just, Luke just keeps getting that shit in that fucking stick. So then we cut back to past time, and it is Hugh waking up. I shit you not. Waking up to Olivia on top of him with a screwdriver to his neck. And this is how this conversation went down. Jesus Christ, Olivia, what the fuck you doing? Hugh? Where am I? You got a fucking screwdriver on my neck. No, I don't. Bitch, no the fuck you don't. No the fuck you don't. You are standing on top of her. She is so delusional, it's not even fucking funny. Just, no I'm not. Just, no, bitch, no. But again, this adds a deeper layer to the show about, we're actually seeing Olivia at her craziness. Now think about it. When you think your wife is fucking crazy, if you woke up to her on top of you with a fucking screwdriver, knife, a frying pan even, just against your neck, and then you go, Jesus Christ, you have a weapon against me, and she goes, no, I don't. I would fucking throw that bitch across the room. I'm not even lying. I don't care. I don't even give a shit if it's my 250-pound-old man. Alright? And my husband, if I wake up to my husband on top of me, fucking with a screwdriver on my neck, his ass is getting thrown across our room. That fucking Wonder Woman strength you hear women have, yeah, I would have that in my hand and chunk him. Because I ain't dealing with it. And as soon as I get done throwing him, I'm leaving out that house quietly, as quickly as I can. I will call you on the road. I ain't dealing with it. But, she wakes up to that he wakes up to that bullshit. And, she's in denial. Like, she doesn't know what the hell's going on with her. And neither does Hugh. And he's like, you gotta get your shit together. Let me show you. So he takes her to the blueprint room. And he shows her the blueprints and goes, do you even recognize this house? And she's like, no. Well, you did these. You did these blueprints. She's like, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. And then you know what this is? And then it turns out the blueprints are just tinier replica scale models of their forever home. She literally just drew the blueprint of her forever home and then just copied the forever home over and over and over and over again. And, she's just like, oh, I'm just tired. Maybe I'm overworked. And even Hugh's just like, yeah, you're definitely tired and overworked, and you gotta go for a couple of days, just, why don't you go? Get out the house. And something that she said that really, like, got me, that really shook me. It's really simple. But it shook me because of the fact that we've all felt like this in some aspect. And I don't mean, okay, maybe I do mean it like this. You ever feel like you're going crazy? I know for women, especially on that time of the month, for us at least, we feel like we're going crazy. And I don't know how you dudes feel because I'm not a dude. But for us women, when we feel like we're going crazy, we generally feel like we're going crazy. Like, we don't feel like ourselves. We don't feel right. But during this situation, Olivia says, it just snuck up on me. Just being tired. Like, just this whole craziness snuck up on her. And that shook me. Because you hear that a lot. You hear that a lot when it comes to people having, like, mental breakdowns. Like, right beforehand, they kind of lose it, but they try to keep their sanity intact, so they just say, it just kind of snuck up on me. It just came at me like I didn't see it coming. Like, not trying to deny it, but basically trying to play it down like it's not that big a deal. When in Olivia's case, it is that big a deal. Like, she's going through some shit, and in this chapter, we don't see it. We don't really get to see it. It's like in Olivia's chapter, we get to see what she went through. So hearing her say, it just snuck up on me, and you realize, you know, after you see Olivia's show, that it's not something that just snuck up on her. It's really something that's traumatic to her. These ghosts, fucking Poppy's being a bitch, and it's fucking with her, and it's mentally making her feel crazy and shit. So hearing her say, it snuck up on me, it really shook me, because it's just dark, man. That's just fucking dark. That's just, she's screaming for help, and yet she can't get it because no one believes in fucking ghosts. So once we get done with that, we go back to the present time again, still at the burial, and Hugh ends up telling Lou about communicating with his wife, saying, listen, I still talk to your mom. You know, she's still here. You know, I know it's not really her, but she's here. I've seen her. And it gets Luke's kind of gears turning and shit about everything. And then we cut back, once again, to the past time. And Hugh is still hearing that scratching sound in the basement. We also get a really nice hidden ghost, by the way, hiding in the background behind the clear curtains. You see a very nice hidden ghost. But Hugh is still hearing that scratching, and he's just like, yeah, rats. The guy said I didn't have rats. I clearly hear these fucking rats. So he ends up tearing down the wall. Now, I will say, there's something I forgot to mention. But the entire time Hugh's looking at the wall in the basement, he keeps thinking he's seeing something. Because he ends up taking a picture, and he sees like a shadow, like an outlined shadow figure against the wall and shit. And he keeps thinking he sees something in there. So he's determined now to see what the hell's in this wall. So he breaks down the wall. And behind the wall is, well, William Hill's body. He ended up basically walling himself up alive and ended up dying, either starvation, dehydration, rats, something. The point is, the man walled himself up alive and didn't come out. So the scratching we heard was him trying to get out. Which makes no sense. Why would you seal yourself up and go, you know what, I changed my mind, this was a terrible idea, and then you didn't have like an exit strategy? Like, seriously, anybody who has stupid ideas like this should always have an exit strategy. I'm just saying, you got a stupid idea, exit strategy, all the way. He didn't have one, now he's dead, and now he's a ghost. But then, you know, once we, you know, do that, we cut back yet again. Yeah, I know, a lot of cutback, guys. Cut back yet again in the present time. And Hugh wants to tell Steve that he's sorry for everything. Like, he actually wants to apologize to Steve. You know, he had that closure with Theo. Now he wants this closure with Steve. And he's hearing Olivia, you know, say these words, you know, say, hey, tell him, you say, hey, Steven, I love you. You know, I'm sorry for this, blah, blah, blah. But he can't say it. He goes, Steven, have a nice flight. Like he goes to say, but he can't say it, so he ends up just saying something like basic and weak, just have a nice flight. Well, you know, everyone's getting ready to go. Shirley comes in, and she's like, I can't find my fucking wallet. Where the hell's my wallet? What the hell's going on? And then Theo comes storming in and goes, bitch, did you tow my damn car? What do you mean? The business is closed. Get the hell out of here. No, where's my car? And they start arguing, and it all comes out that Luke stole Shirley's wallet and Theo's car and is gone. They think it's, you know, he's doing it to go shoot up, to go take some drugs and shit. And while they're arguing about that, Theo looks down on the ground and sees, a dirt trail. And she goes to follow it, and Hugh sees that she's following this dirt trail, so Hugh follows Theo with this dirt trail. And as they're following it, they see the replica of the Forever Home that Shirley had in her office, and it's smashed. Like, it looked like the Hulk smashed it to death. And as they're picking it up, going, oh gosh, Shirley's gonna freak out. Shirley's about to freak the fuck out. They see Nellie's dead body ghost in a way, because she doesn't look like normal Nellie. She looks like, no, it's not Nellie. It was fucking Olivia. It was Olivia. Olivia's dead ghost, and because her head's like split the fuck open and shit. But she's crawling at Theo and Hugh, and both Theo and Hugh end up falling back, and Theo's screaming, Dad, make her go away, and fucking Hugh's just like, holy shit, there's a fucking ghost in front of me. Like, seriously, that's what his look looked like. Seriously, go back, watch that scene, guys. Look at his look. Look at his look. He looks like a guy who literally just saw a ghost for the first time. Just, holy shit! So then we cut back to past time with Hugh talking to the cop about why he won't give the 3 hours. Like, apparently there's 3 hours after Hugh took everybody to the motel and then went back and then he called the police. There's 3 hours that he won't talk about. And he won't talk about the fact that he didn't kill his wife, but he's very adamant that she did commit suicide, and he's been rambling on about this haunted house and shit, and they just want to know what happened in these 3 hours. He won't talk about it. And we leave on Hugh basically running down the hallway, heading into the Red Room, and he finally is able to open the door to the Red Room, and that's where that episode is him literally running into the Red Room. But yeah, that's a good episode. Don't get me wrong. Hugh's episode is really, really good. Now let's jump on to episode 8 now. And I have to say, 8 is a really, really good episode, because this is the one. This is the episode that has the best fucking jump scare I have ever seen in a horror TV show. And it's like it still gets me. Even though I know it's coming, it still fucking gets me. It gets my roommate too all the time. Because what was funny was, like, when I first watched it, it scared the shit out of me. And my roommate, he doesn't like jump scares like this, so I tried to give him a heads up. I was like, hey man, listen, there's a jump scare that's about to happen during a fight. I can't tell you when because it happens during the fight, but there's a jump scare. And he thought I was playing with him. He thought I was kind of trying to build it up into something it wasn't. And he's like, no, you were right, dead serious. Like, right in the middle of the fight, the jump scare ends up happening. Gets him and me every time. But this particular episode is called Witness Marks, which this particular episode is more about Hugh basically confronting Steve about what Steve really saw at the house. Because Steve, again, still denies that he ever saw a ghost. Even in the books, he still said he never saw a ghost. And this is where Witness Marks come in at. This is also known as the Halloween episode because Shirley the entire time is dealing with trick-or-treaters, or let me read air quotes around that, because they're not really trick-or-treaters, they're ghosts. So we have our opening, we're in the past time, and it's Steve and his wife trying to get pregnant, and they're at I'm assuming a fertility clinic? Talking about, this is looking good, your body's looking great, we just need some semen from Steven, and, we go from there, and Steven's kind of zoning out, and that's when he looks at his wife and goes, I need to talk to you, and you're like, oh shit's about to go down, and then we cut to the credits, and we did the opening, and then we come back, and now we're back into the now time, and they're all worried that Luke is either gonna go get some drugs and kill himself or just go straight up kill himself. They're just all panicking. They're like, okay, we're gonna call the credit card company. If he makes a transaction, we can find out where he's at. Hopefully he doesn't do anything stupid. Hugh wants to go and look for Luke, and just get into a car and just start driving around. And Steven's just like, you know what, that's actually a good idea. I know a place where I picked him up at. So Steven and Hugh decide to go, kind of old school style to see if they can't find Luke. We then cut back to past time, And Hugh is telling Steve he can use his help, with Mom, being away and shit. And he wants Steven to do something kind of nice for his mom, And Steven gets the idea he wants to do something nice for her too. But he's not quite sure yet. And as, they get done having this conversation, Steve is walking down the hallway. And we pass this clock guy. Now, the clock guy is important because this is the fucking ghost, basically, Steven said he saw that he didn't believe was a ghost. And we'll get there when we get there, but this clock guy is a fucking ghost. So, Steven ends up going upstairs and finding his mom standing in the twins' room. She's saying, "No, I would never let anything bad happen to you. I would." "Oh, Steven, hi, how are you, buddy? What's up? And he's just like, "Mom, are you alright? You good?" And she's like, "Yeah, baby, I'm fine." Just kind of walks off. Well, where are the twins? They're kind of dazed, scattered, as you might say. Wink, wink. So while Steve is in his game room and he's minding his own business, he sees this nice, dirty vanity, and he goes, "That's the present I want to give my mother. That's it." So he proceeds to basically try to fix his vanity up. But before we get to the vanity, we go back to the present time now, and Hugh's talking to Steve about, his life. And, he's basically like, "Steve, are you that concerned about the DNA, the genetics of, about everything that you're adamant that you're never having kids?" And Steve's like, "Yeah, no, I'm damn straight. We're never having kids." But that's the whole point why me and Leah are fine, because I don't want to have kids. And, Hugh proceeds to tell him, a bit of a story about the one time him and Olivia got into a fight and they separated. And he tells him that it was one of the worst decisions of his life. It was not even 24 hours. They separated. They got into like a little fight. He was very overwhelmed, being a new dad and shit. And he straight up kind of left for 24 hours. And he realized that was the worst mistake of his life. And he came knocking back at the door. And Olivia, of course, opened the door, threw her arms around him. "Oh, don't ever leave me again, baby." And he didn't. They worked everything out. And they kept living the life. I think they said they were together for 20 years. I want to say 20 years they were together. Because they were, I think, married for like 15. They were dating for 5 or something like that. But yes, they had a bit of a problem. And he then proceeds to describe to Steven that, he is the ground and she is the kite. She keeps going up and up, and he has to keep grounding her, but she is the one that lifts him up. And that's a metaphor you hear a lot, especially when it comes to Olivia and Hugh's relationship, is that they call themselves the kite and the ground. Shirley's, then once we get done with that, we cut to Shirley, at the house and shit, getting ready for Halloween, and Shirley's husband goes to leave with the kids, and she's being a fucking bitch. Like, again, guys, I'll say it once, I'll say it again, she's being a fucking bitch. He goes to leave and goes, "Hey, maybe when I get back from trick-or-treating with the kids, you and I could talk." She goes, "Oh, how are we gonna talk? You're gonna be at the motel when you get home." And fucking walks off, like, bitch, you have no right to say shit. You really have no right to say shit whatsoever. You really, really don't. You stuck your dick, I'm sorry, let me phrase that. You let a man stick his dick inside your vagina, and you felt perfectly alright with that. But your sister puts her hands on his cheek, and suddenly he's the devil in disguise? Fuck you, Shirley. Fuck you. No, it's not okay with the fact that you cheated on your husband. You're gonna treat him like this, and he didn't even do shit to you except take the blood money that you were so adamant about no one having, because you gotta be such a fucking control freak, you stupid cock and ball bullshit bitch. Sorry that was a long ass rant, but damn it, man, this bitch pisses me off during this episode. But makes me laugh at the same time because of a fight her and Theo have. But, once she, tells him basically to fuck off, we go back to Steven confronting Hugh about, you know, what some of the police reports and stuff said, because we're back in the car with him now, and he's just like, tell me, Dad, tell me, you know, what exactly happened? You know, she's got a broken ankle. Oh, no, it wasn't broken. A twisted ankle, contusions on her arms. She had contusions on her head, and of course, you know, her skull cracked open and stuff. And he's just like, you know, what exactly happened? You know, why did this happen? You know, you say you didn't hurt her, but this is what's happening. So, you know, what exactly are you telling me happened that night? And of course, you know, they get into more of an argument, like they've been doing for half this fucking show. And eventually, Steven just says the one line I think any child who's ever lost a parent has ever said, and it's true, They're in dead silence after the argument. He just takes a big sigh and just goes, I just miss my mom, man. I just miss my mom. I think anybody who's ever lost a parent could feel that. Just feel that in their soul. Just even after arguing, that you just miss your mom, man. You just miss your mom. And I've seen that shit with Eric. You know, sure, one of the times after his mom passed, we got into an argument. I don't even remember what the fucking argument was about, to be honest. Just some petty bullshit, something stupid. But we got into an argument, and just at one point, he sat down, he started crying, and he's just like, I miss my mom. I just miss my mom. So when I say I feel that, Steve, I feel you, man. I feel you. Right? I've never lost a parent, but watching my boyfriend having to go through that shit, having to be there for him, you know, I really get where Steve is coming from. I really do. But once we get done with that, we then cut back to the past time when Mrs. Dudley is helping Steve get the vanity all fixed up because he wants to clean it up. And he says, hey, I found this in my game room. In your what room? The game room. You know what room I'm talking about. And she's like, oh, I recognize this vanity. Now, this is Poppy's vanity. And she proceeds to talk about Poppy. And, of course, I gave you, everyone, a little detailed information I've learned from the Reddit stories. But for those of y'all who missed it, basically, Poppy was an inmate at the asylum William got sent to when he was a kid. They met in the asylum. They got married in the asylum. And then he brought Poppy back. And Poppy's basically the one that started the bitter rivalry with Hazel all the way up to they died of old age, bitter and angry old women. But once you know, she gets done talking about that, she brings this paint up to him, and he goes to start painting. And this adds a little bit more, you know, theories to the whole, you know, the house wasn't evil, it was just this black mold. But as Steve is cleaning this vanity or painting it, if you look underneath the vanity, it's just covered in black mold. That shit's just like sticky with black mold. Like that, it's more black mold than there is vanity on this shit. But Steve paints over it anyway. Very nice hunter green. Very nice color. Makes it look all nice and shit. And then we go back to the present time, and someone keeps knocking at Shirley's door. Like, Shirley's sitting there. She's dealing with everything. She's like an aggressive knock at the door. She runs out there and she's just like, I'm not in the mood to deal with you fucking trick-or-treaters. And then, you know, nobody's out there. She closes the door, goes back in. She hears it again. She busts out there. She screams out, you know, for them to fuck off. And fucking Theo's walking out the driveway just like, hey, I just came to apologize. My bad. And, you know, she goes, well, I don't have time to deal with this. She goes in, and once again, it starts another fucking argument. She's like, you don't know what you're talking about, Shirley. Like, I can't explain it to you. Oh, explain it? Explain how you had your hands on my husband? Explain this? And then she calls her out. Theo calls her out and calls her a bitch and a control freak. You know, everything I've ever stated about Shirley, Theo straight up just says it straight to her face. And, while they're arguing back and forth, Shirley goes to walk away, and Theo's just like, no, you will stand here and talk to me. And then Shirley turned around and punches Theo in the boob. Hands down. This is gonna be my favorite reaction from anyone ever being punched. So she argues. She turns to walk away. Theo grabs her. She turns around, punches Theo in the boob. They both back up for a second, look at each other. Theo grabs her boob, rubs it, and just goes, Did you just punch me in the boob? And Shirley's just standing there like, yeah, I did just punch you in the boob. That's what happens when you do this in my house. You get punched in the boob. I'm just like, that's a little bit of me inside of Shirley. I'm not gonna lie, that's a little bit of me. I'm just gonna punch somebody in the boob and go, you know what, you deserve that. But while they're get done with, they go to, Shirley goes to walk away, and before she can walk away, they hear the banging sounds again. And they turn and look at the door, and then suddenly the banging sounds are happening at the window, on the walls. It's kind of like it happened when there were kids, and Theo came into Shirley's room about knocking at the walls. And basically, it just keeps getting louder and louder and louder until eventually Shirley gets a phone call, and then everything just stops, assists, all this shit. She picks up the phone, and of course, her voice is shaking because, weird shit just happened. She's like, yeah, hello, hi. And it's the credit card people saying, hey, listen, it's been used at this gas station. And she's like, all right, bet. And they find out that this gas station is leading up to the road towards the house. So, of course, she's got to call Hugh and them and explain the situation. But before we can do that, we cut back to Steven and Hugh talking into the car. And they go back to, why Steven is adamant about not having kids. And he straight up tells him, I can never have kids. It's not that I don't want them. Even though I don't want them, I can't have them. I had a vasectomy about 10 years ago. And this was before he met Lee. So apparently him and Lee talked before they got married, and they talked about having kids and shit. And he never brought up the fact that he had a vasectomy. So she was trying to have kids with him for all these years, and she thought it was her fault when it was actually his fault. That is why they were arguing throughout this whole show. That is why. Because he lied to her, never said he had a vasectomy, and never said anything about his family and about how he was worried about this supposed mental illness that's spreading through his family. So once we get to that part, we go back to Steven now showing Olivia the vanity, looking all nice and shit. It's got little cute pictures and it's all flowery. It looks really nice. Like, he put a lot of hard work and effort into this. And Olivia's thanking him. She's like, oh my God, baby, this is so beautiful. And then she starts staring into the mirror. She freaks out and smashes the mirror and then starts screaming hysterically, and then kind of looks at Steve, and Steve is just like, the fuck, Mom? Like, what the hell is that shit? And she's like, I'm sorry, Steve. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, once we get done with, that kind of like weird moment, we go back to the present time of them in the car again. And, they find out, of course, Luke, bought, 5 cans of gas. And Hugh knows Luke is heading to the house and he's in danger. And he fucking tells Steve that they're going to drive because he knows exactly where Luke is going. So get on in. And fucking Steve's over here like, but it's my rental car. This is my Steve, get your ass in the car. Let's go. And fucking Hugh's just driving. He's like taking the fuck off, pedal to the metal and all that shit. And he proceeds to describe the house as a hungry entity, like as much as I had described the house before, being this entity that needs to constantly feast and eat on sadness and depression and things that you can never have. And then Steve is like, I can't believe you really believe this shit. You really believe this house. He goes, Steve, I'm surprised you don't believe this shit, especially after everything you read in the book. Well, okay, what did I say in the book? What did I say in the book? All right, how about this? How about the fact that you said you were talking to Luke up in the treehouse? Yeah, so? There was no treehouse. And he's like, what? Now, what's great about this scene is that everybody who I've ever seen the show, including myself, when he tells Steve there was no treehouse, you start questioning your own sanity because we all saw that treehouse. We were all in that treehouse. It was funny. I was watching it with my boyfriend, and throughout the whole show, I was giving him hints about, you know, the Red Room and about, like, I didn't straight up tell him, like, hey, you know, this was going on, but I was just like, oh yeah, this is Nellie's Red Room. Oh look, Steven's got a nice red room, and he never quite got what I was talking about. And then when he was just like, yeah, there's no treehouse, Eric looks at me and he's just like, there was a treehouse, so we seen the fucking treehouse. I saw that there was, like, is there a treehouse? Like, he started questioning whether or not we actually saw this treehouse. I'm like, no, we saw the treehouse. It was real, but it's also fake. And Steven's just like, well, you know, what were you talking about? And he's just like, why would I build a treehouse for you guys if we were just staying there to someone renovate it? Or maybe it was already there beforehand. No, there was no treehouse before we moved in. And he's just like, oh yeah, Dad. Okay, what else you got for me? What else you got? And then he proceeds to tell Steve, remember that story you said about the vanity? Yes, about a woman having mental illness and how she showed it in front of her kid. No. Before that, when I was walking, yes, before that. Okay, describe walking up. I walked up the stairs and you passed the guy on the clock, right? And he's like, yeah, of course, you know. Of course, you had a lot of workers coming in and out of this place, especially during the last half of it. You had a bunch of people coming in and out. But I never hired anybody for that clock. And he proceeds to tell Steve that this clock is a special, you know, grandfather handmade clock. So only a select handful of specialists around the world can handle this type of clock. And he never got it, you know, looked at. He got it evaluated, but he never had anybody look at the clock because, you know, he wasn't sure, you know, if it was good clock, bad clock, you know, antique or whatnot. But they evaluated it, and of course, this is where the title of the episode comes in at, the witness marks. When you work on a clock, especially a grandfather clock or anything like that, the little tools you use, you know, you end up kind of, not scratching it, but you end up leaving little ticks, little marks to show your progress over the years of what you fixed and what you replaced on this clock. And there were no witness marks during this time. And even before this time, I think like the last witness mark was like early 1900s or something like that. But the point is, there was no clock. Steven saw a ghost. And basically that's all he was saying is, you saw a ghost, Steve. You saw one. You saw one. It was there. It was in your fucking face. Now will you stop saying we have a mental fucking illness in our family and help me figure out how we're gonna save your fucking brother? Try to take all that shit in. Like, seriously, try to take all that shit in. Like, Steve, God bless Steve. Like, he handled it well, I will say that. You know, he basically got slapped in the face and said, everything you believe is a lie, my dude. All these ghosts are real. But once we get done with that, we cut back to the girls. And this is it. This is the part I was talking about, the best jump scare and shit. So the girls are driving towards the house as well. And Theo tries to talk to her about her husband, about Shirley's husband, about the incident in the basement. And of course, Shirley's not having it. Shirley's just not feeling it. She's like, "Oh yeah, talk about it. Tell me how you tried to touch my husband." And she's like, "Shirley, it's nothing like that. It was not like that. You don't know what happened. I touched Nellie. Okay, I touched her." And she's like, they kind of give her a look like, why the fuck would you do that? And as they're arguing back and forth, fucking Nellie's ghost pops up from the back seat of the car in the midst of this argument, just pops up and just screams at them. She doesn't say anything, she just screams at them. There's basically, shut the fuck up. Stop this arguing and shut the fuck up. But that is the best damn jump scare because you're being pulled in by the argument, by the dialogue, to the point that you're really leaning in to the, oh my god, and it's just the fact that she just comes out of fucking nowhere and just screams. It's just the best jump scare ever. But it's followed up by one of the most beautiful monologues I've ever heard. And basically after, Nellie shows up, fucking Shirley pulls the car over, Theo jumps out of the car, she's crying hysterically, Cheryl's standing there in front of her looking at Theo, and she's like, did you not just see her? That was her. You saw her, I saw her, But when I touched her, and you know it's true, you've always believed in my powers, but you know when I touched her, that when I touch people, I feel things. I know things. And she proceeds to tell her about after she touched Nellie, she felt nothing. And I mean nothing. She couldn't feel anything. Not in her hands, not in her heart, not in her soul. It was like numbness, just sadness, depression. It wasn't even sadness, depression. It was no emotions. It was just numbness, coldness. And basically, what I have written down is she had to know what happened to Nellie. She felt nothing and was numb, floating in darkness. Especially during the basement scene, the way she described it. But leading up to the basement is after she felt numb and shit, so she tried to feel something. So she called Trish, you know, that little Asian girl from the club, tried to feel something. Nothing. She tried to drink. Nothing. Nothing was filling this empty void. Nothing was helping her. And then the lights go out, and she felt like she was floating in the abyss of nothingness because she can't feel anything. She can't see anything. And she was like, my God, is this what death feels like? Is this what Mom feels? Is this what Nellie feels? Is this what life is? Is this all death is going to be? And then I see it. I saw the light, and I didn't even know it was him, but I went for him. And all I saw was the light. And I am so sorry, Shirley. I'm so sorry. But this guilt, this shame and embarrassment feels more to me than that empty nothingness I felt. Like, seriously, just thinking back to the monologue, bringing tears to my eyes. Y'all ever get a chance, look up her monologue. Just look it up on a whim. And it is one of the most beautiful monologues because the actress portraying Theo in this scene, she is literally bringing 120%, not even 120% when it comes to acting. She is literally on the verge of trying to not cry, but cry at the same time, between a mental breakdown and not a mental breakdown. She's confessing this truth and this horrible factor that she felt nothing after touching Nellie. Nothing. She felt like death. And the reason why she touched Shirley's husband was because as soon as the lights came on and all she saw was him, she finally felt something. She felt something, someone, so she reached for it. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was Shirley's husband. It was just her reaching for something to feel, something to grab, something for her to feel normal. And of course, when she went for it, Shirley's husband would, push her away and went, no, we can't do this. Hey, now, then don't be doing this. And that's when Shirley walked in. But it's her saying that shame, that guilt, that embarrassment felt more to me than that empty nothingness. That's the line that just punches me in the gut, because it's true. It is true. There are certain emotions that feel better, even if they are more terrible feelings than the ones you are feeling at that moment. And when I lost my Mimo many eons ago, I felt that nothingness because she was like a big part of my life. And she meant a lot to me, and losing her was like losing a part of me, and I felt like nothing. And I can't remember how I found my way out of that, but Theo found her way out of that. But we end up with, her looking at Shirley just basically apologizing about the whole thing, about the situation, about what's going on. And Shirley, without saying a word, without saying anything, just grabs Theo by the hand, helps her up, and they just go quietly to the car. Don't even say anything, just go quietly to the car. And that says so much. That says so much in that situation because of the fact that Shirley was so speechless by what Theo said and believed everything. Because she didn't believe her, she would have said something. She would have been like, oh, fuck you, Theo. You're just being a drama queen. But she took everything in that she said. She took it in and just accepted that, yeah, Theo's right. I have been ignoring the fact that she has these powers. I have been a bit of a bitch lately. And you know what? Maybe she didn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve this. Theo is right. She don't deserve this. I'm just here to help. Nellie's right too. We both need to stop arguing. So, you know, it's a very nice moment, very nice quiet moment to have, especially after the whole big jump scare, and then we move on to that emotional roller coaster of a scene, and then we just have that deadpan quietness. It's just, that's a nice balance. So then we cut to Luke at the house. Luke pulls up to the house, and as he's walking up to the house, instead of seeing yellow lights like Nellie did, when Nellie walked into the house, you know, she saw the ominous glowing yellow lights through the windows and shit. Luke sees red lights. And no flashing little front porch light going, hey, come home. No, it's just red lights. So he walks in, and he's got all his gasoline. He's fucking pouring this shit everywhere, and he's like, oh, I'm burning this motherfucker down to the ground like this is 1408, motherfucker. Like, no, we are done with this shit. And fucking goes and lights the lighter and throws it down like a badass. And he's like, yeah, fuck this house. And the house just said, nah, bro. Nah. No fire. That's literally the best way I can describe it. Just no fire, man. I mean, as soon as the lighter hits the gasoline, it goes for all of like 2 seconds and then dissipates. And Luke's just standing there like, huh. Well, that was something I didn't expect. And I'm standing there like, huh. That's something I really should have expected from this house. But it's equally still as shocked. But once that happens, he hears something and looks up at the stairs in the foyer, and there's his mother in the red little robe with her arm extended out going, come home, you know, come to me, my love. And we cut back to Luke standing there, and Poppy's behind him, and it ends with Poppy grabbing the back of his head. And we just cut to black. And we're left off on such a traumatic note. We have to carry on to episode 9, which is the Olivia episode. Now, this is where we actually get to see what the fucking house did to Olivia. And I say, Nellie and Olivia got the fuck in this house. Okay, let me phrase that. Nellie, Luke, and Olivia all got the fuck in this house. Like, yeah, Theo got it bad. Shirley got it kind of bad. Steve kind of got it bad. Hugh, he kind of got it bad, but the house really fucked with Olivia and the two twins the most out of everybody. And I really couldn't tell you why. To be perfectly honest, I can't tell you why the house chose to fuck with the twins the most, but I can tell you why the house chose to fuck with Olivia the most. So this episode is called Screaming Mimis, which is basically a reference that Poppy keeps telling Olivia throughout this episode about the nightmares, the screaming mimis, you know, the little nightmares kids have. And we open to Olivia cuddling the twin. You know, she's got, you know, Luke on one arm, Nellie on the other arm. She's like, oh, they're so perfect. I don't want them to ever grow up. You know, I love my kids. You know, they're so great. And in like a blink of an eye, she kind of zones out for like maybe a millisecond or so, and then when she comes to, she realizes Nellie's not in her arms anymore. Luke is, but Nellie ain't. And she goes, oh my god, like, where's Nellie? And then she looks up, and fucking Hugh has Nellie in his arms. He's like, let's go to bed, honey, let's go. And she just kind of sat there, just confused. You know, just like, how did he just, okay, whatever. And then we cut the opening credits and whatnot. Then we come back, and Mrs. Dudley is, oh yeah, this is still after the storm incident. They're helping, Mrs. Dudley's helping clean up some of the house still from the storm incident. And when they get done talking, you know, about Olivia's dad, because you find out she had like this weird dream. Not like a weird dream, but a weird incident that happened after her dad died, where, you know, she was kind of stoic throughout the whole funeral, and as soon as she got home, you know, everybody left for a little bit, and she was at home, she started crying. And as she cried, the storm got heavier, and the storm got louder. The more she cried, the more the storm went, and then it started hailing. Like, kind of like the storm that happened at the house 2 episodes back. It started just hailing and shit, and as soon as she, you know, she got over that emotion, and she stopped, so did the storm. And of course, you know, that's weird. You know, Mr. Dudley even makes a note about that. You know, hey, that's a little weird. And it turns out it wasn't hail, though. it was stones, actual rocks. She had like a Carrie moment. She literally had a Carrie moment from Stephen King's Carrie, where she basically made it rain stones. Hey now, Olivia could have The Shining. She could. Oh god, that's just what we need. We need to start connecting the Stephen King universe with Fleming's work. Jesus Christ, man, that would be one hell of a fucking collab. Think about that for a second. Mike and Steven working together on a haunted movie. That would be great. But we go from there, we go to Olivia going to her room, which is her reading room, which is another red room. And while she's getting ready to, read a book, she gets attacked by a migraine. So she goes to the kitchen. Of course, the kids are arguing down there. And this is where we get another cool hidden ghost, which is one at the window. And it stays there the entire frame when we watch Olivia come around the corner as the kids are arguing in front of the table. She gets the glass of water, comes back around, takes something for a migraine, and the ghost is still there. It's still fucking there being creepy as shit, man. And while she's going back, she's like, well, guys, I want to go to my reading room. And she walks off, and the kids look at each other and go, what room is that? I don't know. So Olivia goes back into the reading room, but when she opens the door, it's not her reading room. It's the morgue from Shirley's house. And she's basically seeing the future. She's seeing Nellie on the morgue table, all dressed up like she was earlier when Shirley was working on her and shit. And then she sees Luke on the ground, foaming at the mouth. That same vision Nellie saw in episode 5 where he was on the ceiling. Her mom's seeing the same fucking thing, except he's on the floor dead. And she freaks out. And as she goes to back up, fucking Nellie's body, starts sitting up from the table. And, she starts, breathing heavily and shit. And Olivia's about to have a goddamn heart attack. But, as Olivia's kind of backing up a little bit, Nellie's ghost grabs, I guess, pliers or something. And proceeds to take out the wiring holding her jaw. And hang on a second. Sorry, Aries decided to scratch right in the middle of the room. Anyway, she basically cuts the wires off her jaws though, and proceeds to go, Mommy, Mom, it's me, and it scares the shit out of fucking Olivia. And so she tries to tell Hugh about it. She's like, Hugh, I had this horrible vision almost where I just saw the kids and they were dead. And of course, Hugh thinks it's just a bad dream. He's just like, honey, it's okay. The kids, we're good parents. The kids wouldn't turn out like this. We're all right. And, she's starting to really be bothered by, a lot of these weird dreams she's having. And the fact that she's agreeing with Hugh, though, she's feeling very scattered. We're back to that moment after the blueprint incident where she's agreeing. She's feeling scattered. She's really feeling scattered. And, after she talks to Hugh, she sees Poppy. Poppy, I think, Hugh leaves or something, and she goes down the hallway. She sees Poppy walking down the hallway, so she follows Poppy. And Poppy's going into the red room. And Poppy's like, hi, I love what you've done with this place. This place used to be a dressing room for me and then a nursery. But I like what you've done. This looks great. And, of course, she asks Poppy, hey, am I dreaming? She's like, well, if you're dreaming, that means I must be dreaming. Poppy, you really see the insanity of Poppy because she makes no sense. Like a fucking Alice in Wonderland character over here. They end up talking about, trying to keep the kids safe, keep them safe from those screaming memes, those little nightmares, my kids had nightmares once. And Poppy proceeds to tell Olivia about her kids' nightmares. And, as she's looking around the room and shit, she's like, I had a dream that my daughter choked on nothing. She started shaking and then she died, which is basically Jacqueline, not Jacqueline, or was it Jacqueline? Again, when it comes to the family tree, when it comes to the kids, it's really hard to pinpoint whose kids is what because some of the stories on Reddit are conflicting when it comes to the family tree. So I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming she's talking about one of her kids. She talks about daughter choking on nothing and then the son drowning. Now, the son drowning, of course, is the whole barrel thing with Hazel throwing the kid's body that was in the barrel burning into the flames of a pit of nothingness so they can get rid of the bootlegging shit. But her daughter, that might be Jacqueline, and that could have been the Submit story. I can't keep track of the family tree. That's been one of the hardest things to pinpoint in this show. It's literally the Hills family tree. I can't decide whether it's the world's biggest family tree or the world's smallest but biggest family tree at the same time. But, Poppy proceeds to basically talk about, the screaming Mimi, the nightmares her kids have. But that's just it. They're just nightmares. They're just little dreams. And all they got to do is wake up. And Poppy keeps, basically being adamant about keeping the kids safe, and it's really getting to Olivia of what Poppy was saying about keeping the kids safe. And once they get done I guess going through the whole charade of screaming Mimi, you gotta wake them up. And how do you wake them up? Well, you just wake them up. And when in actual reality she's talking about waking them up by killing them. She wants you to kill them, but Poppy fucking crazy. Poppy Ghost is fucking crazy, and fucking Olivia's starting to be a little crazy. But once she wakes up from that moment with Poppy, that's when we come into her with the screwdriver against Hugh's neck, and we get to see her perspective on the situation. And now you kind of get why she said, "Oh, no, I'm not," because she really wasn't. She doesn't know how she got on top of Hugh with the screwdriver in hand. She knew she was in her room. Poppy was there. Poppy was telling her about the screaming Mimis, and next thing she knows, she's over here about to kill her husband. So, yeah, the whole, no, I'm not, totally makes sense. Even though she's fucking crazy, totally makes sense. And, of course, we go through the whole, blueprint thing where he shows her the blueprint and she talks about the migraines and how they keep getting worse. And then we cut to her, I think later on that night or something. She's tucking the twins in the bed and they ask about bad dreams. And they're like, "Mom, if we had a bad dream, would you wake us up?" "Well, of course, sweetie, I would. I would definitely wake you up. So, if I was to die a horrible death and go out there and fill my blood and veins with poison and let it slowly kill me, would you wake me up from that?" These kids start getting dark. The twins really start getting dark in this situation. I'm not gonna lie. Because they start talking about doing drugs and being depressed and mentally unstable in the future tense. Talking to Olivia, just hey, if I, stuffed a bunch of heroin up my arm, would you wake me up from that shit? "Mom, if I was depressed because my brother keeps shooting himself up with fucking heroin, would you wake me up from that?" Damn, House, that's just fucking mean. You're fucking with her. Now you're using the twins to fuck with her. And of course, she's just "Yes, I would wake you up. I would wake you up." And then that's when she gets snapped back to reality, and we're back to that part where Steven was talking to her, or after he walked past the clock guy, and he goes to talk to her, and she's in the twins' bedroom just standing there. Now, at this point in the episode, you're starting to realize when it comes to Olivia, she's losing track of time. Think about that. She's losing track of time. Because she goes into the, and you even see that in several other episodes, during the two Storm episodes, when she comes down the stairs, and he's like, "Where the hell you been at?" And she's like, "I don't know." That's why. She's been going to the red room, or her reading room, and Poppy's been kind of brainwashing her, and she's been losing track of time and her location. She's been, lost in a fucking daydream. Just lost to the world. Even lost her own sanity. But we see Steve standing there and snap her out of it, and yeah, of course, she walks downstairs. And she's all like, oh, where are the twins at? I hope they're okay. So then we cut to her sitting downstairs in the nice little mosaic area. And Mrs. Dudley comes up with a little pain. She's like, what you doing? She's like, in a house you think would be so big, it's very hard to get some alone time here. And that's when Mrs. Dudley and her start talking about the children and about, the weird dreams she's having and shit. And Mrs. Dudley, in some aspects, doesn't help. She ends up proceeding to tell her, keep your children safe. Keep them homeschooled. That's why I homeschool my child. Keep them close to your heart because you know how cruel this world is. And she kind of hammers in the paranoia Olivia's having about the outside world and about letting the kids go out. Because the house is really chewing on her about the kids' safety. And Mrs. Dudley really doesn't help the situation. And it's not like she's purposely trying to not help the situation. She thinks she's giving her the best motherly advice she can. But she doesn't realize the instability that fucking Olivia's going through. So then, she says, well, I'm going to take these up to your son. He's working on a little project. Don't tell him I told you. And then, of course, we cut to Olivia finally looking at the mirror. And we get to see what she saw. And the reason why she smashed the mirror was because in the mirror, she saw Luke and Nellie just sitting there dead on the bed. And it freaked her out, so she punched the fucking mirror. I would fucking punch the fucking mirror. If I saw my two kids dead, just straight up. I'm not even lying, just straight the fuck up. Just punch the hell out of that shit. And then, of course, she was just like, you're scaring me. You're scaring the kids. You punched the fucking mirror. Like, you're not okay, Olivia. You're not okay. You need to leave for a little while. So, of course, she agrees to leave. And she says she's going to her sister's place for a little while. And that everything will be okay. And, everything seems to be going all right. They all agree. They all wish each other loves and kisses and hugs. And she says she'll be back in a couple of days. And everyone goes, bye. She walks off. And then when this is the last night for Olivia. So during this last night for Olivia, she's sitting in the motel. And of course she calls, Hugh to check on him. And the entire time, you hear the kids in the background going, tell Mom I said this, oh, Dad phoned in on dinner, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, yes, no, honey, I got this, oh, yes, I love you. Tell your sister I said hi, and then hangs up the phone. And she sits there, and she zones out, kind of like how Nellie did in episode 5. She zones out, and she decides she's coming back to the house. She goes all the way back to the house, middle of the night to middle of the fucking night. Goes all the way back to the house and sees you sleeping on the sofa. So she goes into the kitchen. She starts making this poison tea with some of the rat killing stuff Hugh picked up thinking he had rats. And it turned out it was William Crane in the walls. But Theo comes down and sees this, and she's like, Mom, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, I'm just here to check on y'all. I missed y'all so much. Why don't you go to bed, sweetie? And she grabs this tea set and walks the fuck off. And Theo's just left there going, okay, why is Mom back? Okay. And then we cut to Olivia upstairs. She knocks on the door and she wakes the twins up and she's like, hi guys, hi, how would y'all like a secret tea party? I would like that with you. And then when you know it, there's a fucking third person in this bedroom. That's not her child. It's Abigail. Fucking little Abigail. The little girl everyone was claiming was a ghost throughout this entire show. Just about. The little ghost little girl that everyone thought was a ghost. That even the family thought was a ghost. That even I, until this very moment, thought she was a fucking ghost. Yeah, that little girl, not a ghost. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. That really blew my fucking mind. Cause I thought she was a ghost the entire time I was watching the show. Like, oh yeah, no, Abigail definitely a little ghost girl. Definitely a little ghost girl. Nah. As soon as she's like, yeah, he told me it was all right. I'm just like, motherfucker, she's real. She is fucking real. She is real, and I don't even know what's real anymore, to be honest. But continue on, my good sirs. So, Nellie gets up, and the kids start following her, and Nellie asks her mom, are we dreaming? Because she's like, hey, surprise tea party. And that's the one thing Nellie wanted throughout this whole fucking show, is just a fucking tea party. Someone to have a tea party with her. And no one would have a tea party with her until this moment. So, she goes, okay, it's not a dream, sweetie. We're gonna go have this tea party. And they round to the red room, and the door is open. The door is fucking open. And of course, little Nellie's like, yay, the door's open! And fucking Olivia bends down, and it's just like, yeah, so you want to know what the key is? Us. And then, of course, they open it, and we finally get, like, a good look at the red room to a degree. And this red room looks really nice. Like, it's not really my cup of style, to be honest. But it's, like, white walls, nice, dark, heavy curtains, nice, good furniture that kind of sticks out in the middle of the room. Very nice looking room. Not gonna lie, it's a very nice looking room. Not my style, though. But, she goes to, get the tea and shit, and the exact same time, Theo goes and wakes Hugh up, and it's like, Dad, Mom's back. And I don't know why. She was in the kitchen making something. And, of course, Hugh wakes up, and he goes, checking the house, checking on everybody, and everybody's asleep, until he gets to the twins' rooms. And the twins aren't there. And then we cut to Olivia, pouring the tea, and they're all talking about, oh, you gotta hold it with your pinky and shit. And they go to drink it, and Abby's the first one to drink it. Not, Nellie or Luke or anybody, but Abby. And why, they're casually talking. It's like, oh, it's so great to, be here, be with you guys. You see fucking poor Abby start choking to death. She's foaming at the mouth. She's, coughing her fucking lungs out. She's like slamming on the table. And they're like, what's going on with her? Mom, is she okay? And Mom's just over there just like, oh, she's just waking up, sweetie. It's okay. She'll be all right. And, fucking course she's not. She's been poisoned, so poor Abby dies right there in front of Olivia. And the kids go to take a sip of the tea, and fucking Hugh comes busting on in there from the ending of the last episode and throws all the tea on the floor. Like, he starts shoving it, going, don't drink the tea, don't do it. It goes to fucking, like, I guess grab the kids, but Olivia's not having it. So Olivia comes around and grabs Hugh by the shoulder. And Hugh, in such a bit of frustration, grabs her and then pushes her back, and she ends up slamming up against the wall, knocking her out and fucking up her ankle. Thus is why she had the contusions on her arm and fucked up head, and, well, not busted the head yet, but the contusion on her arm and her fucked up ankle is because Hugh pushed her to get her off of him, because she was about to fucking go ham on him for taking the kids away. And, when she gets, comes to, she sees, oh shit, okay, here we go. She sees, kind of the aftermath of what has happened. She's just like, okay, I have killed this poor child, and now I can't find anybody. And she's stumbling around and shit, doing a little limping thing we saw earlier. And something that I forgot to mention before she started, trying to find the kids and everybody. Hugh goes originally to go start waking up the kids from we saw from the first episode. And Hugh sees the group of ghosts from the house. Like, it's just a group of ghosts hanging out in the foyer. He actually sees it, and he just keeps on going like, I didn't see that shit, and just keeps on going. But Olivia sees the same fuck shit when she goes back through, and, she sees it, she just keeps on going too. And she gets to Steve's room, and this is where we had that scene from the first episode where, Hugh was going to get Steven, and they saw something at the door, and the door, starts moving back and forth, and that's Olivia trying to get into the room, and Poppy's standing there fucking with her, just going, he's taking your children away, he's gonna run off with your children that you're never gonna see again. And she just keeps going faster and faster and faster, explaining to her how Hugh is taking her kids away and how they're all gonna die painfully death, and it's all gonna be her fault. And then suddenly it goes quiet and you just hear, she lies. And, you know, Olivia goes and looks. She walks to the next room. There's fucking Hazel in the bedroom laughing. Just, puppy lies. Puppy lies. And Olivia's just like, can you tell me what's going on? What's happening? And before she, you know, Hazel can answer, fucking Hugh, you know, comes busting out the room holding Steven, and that figure we saw in the beginning of that episode hopping around, you know, reaching for Steven, that was the mom. That was the mom. And of course we see her, you know, stumble and fall. We hear that door slam from the first episode, and she runs up to the glass and she's looking down, and of course Steven sees her in the not the reflection on the window, but sees her in the window. And then, of course, Poppy's standing there in her fucking ear, still chewing on it, just saying, oh, there he goes, taking them away. You know, you never see him again. Oh, there's your kid about to suffer all for eternity because you can't fucking do anything. And eventually, Poppy winds her up to the point that she tells Poppy to shut the fuck up. And as she goes to walk away, you know, Poppy just says, Hugh is killing your children. Hugh is killing your children. And it kind of sits in with Olivia. Like, it really does. The fact that now she's alone in this house, everything Poppy has just said kind of hits too close to home for her. You know, she's almost killed her kids. She killed this other girl. And she sees that. She goes and sees the body and realizes she killed Abigail. And she doesn't even know what's a dream anymore and what's real anymore. She really doesn't. Her mental state is so fractured, so shattered, as they say, as Mr. Dudley said, shattered because of what Poppy has been doing to her and what this house has done to her, that she's just lost her fucking marbles. And she decides, you know, maybe she does need to wake up. Maybe she needs to wake up herself. So as she's walking out to the library, Poppy is still like whispering in her ear, you know, all you just gotta do is just wake up. Just wake up, dearie. And Olivia goes into the study. She's on the balcony stairs. She gets over the edge. And Poppy leans in behind her, goes to touch her and tells her to wake up. And then fucking Olivia just lets go and falls head first down to the first floor. Busts her head wide open and just kills her. That's how Olivia died. She never killed herself. The house pushed her to kill herself. Poppy pushed her to kill herself by taunting her and tormenting her with the fact that she was losing her children, that her children were gonna die, that she didn't even know what was a dream and what was real anymore. Because she was bouncing between the fucking dream world and the real world and was losing track of all time and location. The house is just that fucking evil. The house, again, did some shit, like some fuck shit to fucking Nellie, but the fuck shit it did to Olivia was just fucking mean. It was cruel. That is just cruel. It's just cruel to use your children against you. It's just, if you as a parent are that terrified of losing your children, and then a ghost or something keeps taunting you with the fact that, oh, well, your children are about to die. Oh, there they go to die. That would really fuck me up. I'm not gonna lie, that would really fuck me up to the point that I would too probably kill myself out of confusion. Just like, I don't even know what's real anymore. Bye. Granted, I wouldn't have done it in such dramatic fashion. You know, my ass, I'm fucking lazy and just want to make sure I kill myself in one fell swoop. I would just use a gun. You know, I wouldn't even try to be all cutesy about that and jump off a balcony. But, you know, to each their own when it comes to committing suicide in this damn show. Because hell, we had Nellie hang herself from the balcony. And we have Olivia fucking throwing herself off the balcony. I mean, apparently the balcony is a very popular place to kill yourself in the show. But anyway, we then cut to fucking Hugh coming in and basically, hang on one second, and basically seeing, you know, her body just kind of there, and he's like holding her, and this explains why there's a lot of blood on him when he comes back to the motel. is because he's holding her and shit, and there's just blood just coming out every fucking where. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, he's just sitting in this shit. Just fucking sitting in this shit. And then, Mr. and Mrs. Dudley come in, and they're like, Hugh, what happened? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Like, what happened to my family? And then he asks, what are y'all doing here? Hey guys, I know why I'm here. Why are y'all here? And of course, Dudley proceeds to tell them, we're looking for our daughter. And that's when it all clicks together in one fell swoop. Abigail is that daughter they keep talking about repeatedly throughout the show. That's their kid. That's their second born child that Olivia just killed in the fucking house. So, they go and unfortunately see the body of Abby. And they end up proceeding to, kind of deal with that situation. How else are we supposed to deal with that? But we deal with Hugh sitting there, kind of crying about the whole situation. And then we pan over from the library all the way back to the front door, and it's literally the first day when they walk in. I'm talking about the very first day. They open the door and like, well, this is our new home, guys. Oh, this is great. This is lovely. And, the kids are running around, they're talking about the room, and then how they're going to have an exciting summer, that this is going to be the best, summer of their lives, and yada, yada, yada. And then he looks at Olivia and goes, Olivia, are you coming? And she's just like, yeah, I'm coming. I mean, yeah, I'm on my way. And he just smiles and looks at her and goes, I don't, no, she looks at him and goes, I don't know what you guys would do without me. And he looks at her and smiles and goes, well, how could we? And that's the ending of that episode. Which, again, I really like Olivia's episode. It really shines a lot of light on her racial struggles in the house, because of the fact that we really don't get to see all the way up to this point how the house affected Olivia. We just know Olivia killed herself, and we know Nellie followed in her footsteps. We know that she was a good mom, but wasn't always right there in the head. Now we know, after this episode, the house was fucking with her to the point that it convinced her to try to kill her children and then kill herself. And it almost succeeded. It almost succeeded too, which is the sad part. But now we're on to the last episode of this wonderful, wonderful show. And this is, as I like to title it, the Red Room episode. Because we finally actually get to go inside the Red Room. Like, we actually get to be inside the Red Room and roll around and enjoy the moldy nastiness of this fucking room. But this title is called Silent Led Steadily. And if you remember the opening of the show with Stephen's monologue about the house, about, silence less steadily and this house made of brick and stone. So, this particular episode opens up with Shirley and Nellie trying to open up the red door. And we see them, struggling with the fucking, door. And of course we know it's Theo on the other side of the door, showing that loop effect about the fucking room. And then we cut to Stephen. Oh shit, I almost dropped my pen. We cut to Stephen, working on his book. And I can't even say it's the present time, because alright, so the best way I can describe the back and forth between this episode is the Red Room and then what's going on presently. When I talk about something going on in the Red Room, I don't mean the room itself, I mean the mysterious thing, the daydream the Red Room has them in. That's the best way I can try to describe this back and forth bullshit. But we cut to the Red Room, and it's Stephen working on a sequel to The Haunting of Hill House, and his wife's there. She's very, very pregnant, and he's wearing a very nice red shirt. Excusez-moi. And now, real quick though, let me digress for a second. Now, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, this show is very heavy on colors, lighting, and sounds. One of the big colors, of course, is red. And I think we talked about this in last week's episodes, where the color red is supposed to represent the Red Room itself. Now, when we get to near the ending of this episode, I have a theory that I would like to run by y'all, but it has something to do with Olivia's red robe, and we'll get there when we get there. But Steve is wearing his nice red shirt, and they're, bullshitting about the book and shit, and he's like, I don't know how to write this, because I don't even know how I got here. Like, what happened? Like, what exactly happened? And Leia's like, okay, so what happened after you got to the house? And he starts thinking about it. And we go back to Hugh and Steve going to the house. And as they're, busting into the house, they see, of course, the gasoline on the floor. They don't see Luke anywhere. They start exploring the house, and they see Abby's ghost in the library by the stairwell, and Hugh stops them and goes, wait. And looks over at Steven. Steven looks at him, and you see fucking Williams goes, Mr. Tall ass creepy motherfucker. Yeah, that dude, you see him come floating his ass this way, and Hugh looks at Steve and goes, Steven, look at me. Look at me and don't look anywhere else. And fucking Steven just stares at him, not look up. Oh, fuck. And what's funny, my roommate pointed this out, is that throughout the whole show, Steven, even though these ghosts are in his face, denied their existence. All the way up until, his father told him the Clockman story. So he looked them all the time in the face and never feared them because he didn't believe in them. Now that he believes in them, he can't look them in the face, otherwise he will die. And I find that funny, is the fact that now that you can finally look at these ghosts and go, hey man, I believe in you. You can't look at him because William over there about to fucking choke you out with his cane. But they, he tells them to look at him and shit. And once, fucking William dips out, Hugh and Steven run upstairs, and they try to get into the door, and of course the door's not fucking opening. They're banging on it, screaming for Luke and shit. And Hugh, of course, backs up. He's like, this room never wanted me in, fuck this room. And then the door opens for Steven, so he's like, oh shit, Luke, let me help you out, man. He runs in there, and fucking Hugh tries to stop him. He's like, Steven, wait. And before he can say shit, the door closes, and fucking Poppy's in there and knocks Steven out with her touch of God. Like, seriously, this bitch has got the touch of God. Like, as soon as, her pinky finger lands on your forehead, you're knocked the fuck out. So, Steve starts remembering the fact that he's in the red room. He's in the red room. And the ghost starts fucking, or not really the ghost, but the house, the red room starts fucking with Steve and going, this is your life now. Isn't this what you wanted? You get to stay in this house with me forever with this child. And she lifts up her belly and she's showing the baby moving and shit. And it starts slowly creeping out as black. Like her belly starts turning black and then she starts turning black. And she proceeds to tell Steven that everything he's done has been a fuck up. Your life is a fuck up. You not having children is a fuck up. Maybe it's good choice that you didn't have kids, man. Maybe it's good. And the house is tormenting Steven, and it's really fucking with him by saying, oh, with this baby, what are you ever gonna do with it? You're actually gonna have a happy life? You actually gonna be normal? Like, seriously, bro? And then the house, I think one of the best references I can give a reference about the house is even the house brings a mention about the fact of it's eating Steven. It's just like, you're going to devour yourself and let it fester and boil until you digest into nothing else. And I think it's the best way to describe this house. It ain't like it's haunted by a demon or a demonic entity. It's literally just a being that just festers and feeds and just needs to eat because it's got so much negative energy, so much bullshit build up between the hills and the sister-in-laws and shit that this house is just not normal, and it will never be normal. Because fuck this house, man. Fuck this house. It is so mean. But after, you know, that reference and all that shit, Nellie's in the room and wakes him up. Nellie's there and wakes him up. And of course, you know, Steven wakes up and he tries to, you know, do CPR on Luke and shit. And we get to see what Luke sees. And we get to see, you know, after the failed attention of burning the house down, he's now back in front of the payphone when he originally called Steve to come pick him up. And there's Joey. And she walks in, she goes, you know, hey, I got us a room, I didn't know where you went. And it's basically giving Luke what he wanted. You know, with Steven, it gave him what he wanted. You know, he was back with his wife, and they were about to have a child, and he was working on the next book that was supposed to be the next bestseller, and it all comes crashing down and crumbling into his arms because the house is fucking cruel. And with Luke, it was Joey came back. And that Joey really just wanted to, you know, get a hotel room, get some food and shit. And of course, Luke is walking in and there were some nice red shoes. Wink, wink. And, while they're talking and shit, you know, she goes, well, with the extra money, I bought some heroin. And he's just like, yeah, no, we ain't doing that, my dude. We ain't doing that. And the house is like, oh, but you are. You've already done it. He looks down. There's a fucking needle already in his arm. And he starts, like, you know, passing the fuck out. Because I want to say they injected him with actual poison. I'm not too sure about that because it looks like poison. But they never dove into what they stuck him with. But they got him with some poison. And he starts, like, you know, seeing some shit and tweaking out a little bit. And the house makes a reference about that story he heard during rehab about the guys seeing the little girl's melting eyeballs. And the house uses that against him and starts making Joey's eyeballs fucking melt. And I'm just like, that's fucked up, my dude. That's fucked up. That's really fucked up. And, Hugh, and so, let's see. Oh, okay. So yeah, after that, we then cut to Hugh trying to still break into this fucking house. I mean, not the house, to the door. Like, he's still trying. Like, this man can never get into this door when he wants to, but when he doesn't want to, the door is wide fucking open. And as he's banging, you know, on the door, this mole basically grabs onto his arm and starts spreading through his body, and it tweaks him out. To the point that he falls back and kind of like knocks himself out because it freaks him out that damn bad. And then we get the girls finally showing up. And once the girls show up, unfortunately, but stupidly enough, they end up splitting off for like half a millisecond. I think Theo runs into one room, Shirley runs into the next room, and of course Poppy gets both of their asses. Fucking Shelly wakes up to her at this bar, sitting there, and she gets a drink. And she looks over, and there's this guy standing there, and she, you know, smiles and points at her finger and says, oh, I'm married. And this is when you find out, guys, this is the Red Room attacking her on her fucking affair. I'm just like, you know what? This is the one time the house is not mean. She deserves this bullshit. She's the only one out of all this bullshit. I'm like, she deserves this, especially after the fuck shit she pulled in that last episode, or the previous episode before the last. Fuck her. But she basically, you know, tells him, you know, oh, I'm married, you know, I'm just not, you know, sorry, not sorry. And she ends up ordering him some, like, weird fucking finger food snack or whatever, just to apologize for the awkwardness. And they end up talking. He offers her a nightcap back at his room, and she looks down and knows that he's also married. And she goes, nah, I'm good. And he walks out, and you're thinking, well, that was a weird affair. And then the house shows up, being him, and he's like, but that's not what you said. No, I offered you the nightcap, and you said yes. You looked at the ring because you realized I also had something to lose as well. So you made that decision to have this affair because you knew we both had a lot to fuck up if we got caught. And I'm gonna be honest, like I said, guys, she deserves all the torment she gets here because fuck this bitch, fuck her. How dare she have an affair and then talk mad shit against her husband and tell him he's gonna sleep at a hotel and he didn't even do anything when she actually did. She actually let that man fuck her. Theo didn't fuck him though. Theo didn't fuck him, but she fucked that other guy. But in some aspect, that's what she wishes she said. She really wished she didn't have the affair, but she had a lot going on. I think it's like the kid, like the second kid was just born. The business was having some struggles here. She was always on the go. The love out in the marriage was kind of gone for an aspect or for a minute, and it really bothered her. And it starts fucking with her some more. And then Nellie, of course, shows up and snaps her out of it. So then we cut to, Shirley waking up out of this and seeing Steven, trying to give CPR to Luke. So she tries to join in on this. And then we cut to Theo, who's in her own little red room dream. And she's talking to Trisha, that little Asian girl she met at the club. And in this dream, she's actually letting Trish touch her. She's not wearing her gloves. Like, she goes to put her gloves on, and of course, being in the red room, she's like, "Why are you doing that?" I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this. And she takes the, doesn't put the other one on, takes the other one off, and she goes to touch her, and while she's, talking, she's talking about her mom, and about the one time Theo ever got hit by Olivia, and it was when they were working on some kind of house or something, and Theo threw a rock through a glass, like, greenhouse or something, right before the clients were supposed to show up, and Olivia hit her. But she didn't feel it. She doesn't feel anything. She never felt anything like that ever again. I'm assuming what she's talking about is that weird unconditional love but disappointment your parents feel when they spank your ass. And why she's talking about this ends up in some aspect being brought in. They end up talking about William's affair story, about how he had an affair and then walled himself up, and Theo is basically doing the same thing, walling herself up. And the house starts really fucking with her, after they start bringing, William into this, and she's down on the bed, and a bunch of hands start reaching up, trying to basically grab her by her throat and by the top of her head and basically smother her, like how she felt, the numbness, the emptiness, the sudden darkness. It was trying to bring her into that. And of course she's reaching up, and there's fucking Nellie just standing there and grabs Theo's hand and pulls her up out of that bullshit. And of course Theo comes back to it, and you see, of course, everyone back again doing the CPR on Luke. She's like, "Stay with us, Luke, don't die, man, don't fucking die." And Luke, we then cut to Luke's red room dream, and now he's back in the red room, but it's back to what it looked like during Olivia's episode and all the white and shit. And he's wearing a very nice suit. I'm not gonna lie, it's a very nice suit. And there's his mom in the red robe, and she's like, "Darling, I'm so glad you're here. I've been waiting so long for you. I've missed you and I love you. Oh, and I have your hat, special hats." And you see, everyone putting the little hats on. It's a little bowler hat that she gave him during that one episode. And while they're talking, talking about, "Hey, I'm glad you're here," and stuff, she made a comment about how she was gonna name him Robin, but as soon as she saw him, he wasn't a Robin, he was a Luke. He was definitely a Luke. And why she's trying to convince him to come sit down and have this tea, little Nellie is looking at Luke going, "Don't. No, go away, leave, don't." And Olivia's like, "Why would you tell this to your brother? Why would you tell your brother to leave?" And little Nellie just keeps trying to say, "Stay out of the room, just leave, just go." And right before mom goes to grab him, he snaps out of it and he comes back to reality, and he's okay. The CPR Steven has been doing for the past 20 minutes has finally fucking worked, and he's fine, he's okay. And then that's when they all see Nellie. And I don't mean bit net lady Nellie, not little girl Nellie, no, Nellie. It's Nellie as they know her. And she's sitting there, and this is when we get what the Red Room is. She proceeds to call it, basically, you know, Mom always said that a house was like a human, and this place, this room is its stomach. This is where it digests us. This is the room. And this is when it gets told that the Red Room, the special rooms, we keep saying, the TV room, the gaming room, the play room, the Olivia's reading room, all these rooms, they're all the same fucking room. But you can't really tell that because of the design of the room, the angles of the room, the way the rooms were shot. But the only thing, and I even noticed this when it first happened, you know, I was like, you know, this is a nice window. You know, the second time, that's a nice window. And after that, I never thought much of it. And then when they showed us, like, the little clip show of the special rooms and everybody hanging out in the rooms, and you just see that fucking window in the middle, I'm just like, son of a bitch. You got one on me. You twisted this whole thing around. You got me, man. You got me. That was one of the best twists of the show, though, to find out that these rooms were very much real, but only in their minds. Because that is what the house did. The house designed these rooms to keep them happy, to keep them preoccupied, while it marinated, while it let them digest. And then when they're outside the house, you know, walking around, dealing with the ghosts and the fear and the bullshit, it marinated them. It marinated them in this fear and the regrets and what they're worried about. And then as soon as it got to the Red Room, it kept them in a safe, happy little area that they all loved, but they knew it wasn't true, but they all wanted it to be true anyway. And it let them sit there so it could digest them slowly and fucking get its feel. And that's all this house is. It's just an evil fucking being that wants to eat. And then Nellie proceeds to tell them, you know, after the revelation of the Red Rooms being all the same fucking rooms, that time, it's not like dominoes. And I think even if you watch Doctor Who, even Doctor Who explains that time is not a strict cause to effect. It's, as the Doctor puts it, a big ball of timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff. But the way Nell describes it is, time is like rain, like confetti. It's always around us, and we can move from one place to another. So in some aspects, ghosts can travel through time. This is why, you know, Nellie was able to basically see herself in the future when she was a kid, because ghosts can travel through time. She didn't have quite a grasp on it. You know, being a ghost and all, you don't become a ghost and go, all right, guys, well, these are my powers. No, you had to struggle a little bit. There's always struggles when it comes to being a ghost. But once they get done with her talking about, you know, how life is like confetti, you know, dribbling down, and you let it fall upon you, they all apologize to Nellie. They're like, Nellie, listen, we're sorry. We should have listened to you. We should have believed you. And, you know, Nellie's like, guys, I know y'all love me. I love y'all, and y'all the best siblings I could ever ask for. So let's see if we can't get you out of this room. And then Theo and them tried to leave the room. This is when Theo actually has one of the funnier lines. Actually, it might have happened a little bit earlier after they woke Luke up, before they saw Nellie. But at one point, they're trying to get out, and Theo is just like, you know, all this time we spent trying to get inside this room. Now we can't get the fuck out of this room. I'm like, spoken like a true bitch. You've seen some shit. Spoken like a true bitch. But while they're trying to get out of the fucking room, we cut to Hugh, who's still in the hallway, and he's waking up, and there's fucking Poppy just sitting there talking shit, just, how you doing, Hugh? You know, you're killing your family, you know, you done the fuck your family up, I hope you're happy. And then fucking Olivia comes out of nowhere and is like, Poppy, back the fuck up, bitch, just back up, I'm gonna beat your ass, bitch. And, you know, of course, you know, Poppy's like, you can't blame a girl for having a little fun, you know, and walks off. And Olivia starts talking to Hugh about you know, keeping the kids here. She's like, the kids are back. Let me have my kids. And he's just like, you know this is wrong. You know this is wrong. You know this, right? And she's like, but the nightmares they're gonna have, and the nightmares I've had about the whole situation. And he's like, baby, we gotta let them go. They can't always be underneath us forever. And this is the whole, one of the theories about the show is about overparenting. About how overparenting, being a helicopter parent, can actually drive your kids to do things that are too dangerous because you won't let them go. You're suffocating them. You're not giving them space to breathe. And in some aspects, Olivia, near the end, was kind of being a helicopter parent because she was so worried about them dying. And that's all Poppy's fault, though. That's all Poppy's fault. But she was so worried that she doesn't want to let them go now. Even though she knows the house is killing them. Being in that room is fucking killing them. She still won't let them go. Now, this is one of the theories I want to talk about. Throughout this conversation while Hugh is talking to Olivia, I noticed that when they're first having the conversation, you of course see Olivia all in her red robe. But as Hugh is breaking her down, you know, like finally wheeling her down, talking her down, you know, at least, you know, let the rest of them go. Like, you have Nellie. I could give you something else. As he's talking, you notice the way the camera angles hit Olivia. They're not showing the red robe off anymore. It's literally like the way Olivia's hair is, it's covering up the color of her robe, which before then, we didn't have a problem with that. Before then, we saw the robe, they didn't have an issue with that. But during this scene, her hair is covering up the robe. The way the lighting is hitting her, just her by the way, not Hugh. Hugh is lit up fine as fuck. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Granted, her lighting is pretty good, but he is lit like normal, you know, moonlight, fucking light through another room and shit, you know, he looks fine. Olivia, on the other hand, her robe ain't black anymore. I mean, not black, it's not red anymore. It's almost bluish black. It's very dark, but it ain't red. And I feel like when Olivia died, because Poppy was fucking with her, there's two mental states to Olivia's ghost. You have the Olivia who we're talking with now, who is not in the red robe, who is pretty a level-headed basic woman who understands that her children's lives are in fucking danger and she needs to protect them. And you have red robe Olivia, which is the craziness of the house, of her so desperately to keep her children and keep them smothered underneath her hand that she's willing to let them die. So I feel like there's two different Olivias. Granted, they're all in the same body, but because of what the house did to her, basically her mental stability. She doesn't have like DID or anything like that, but her mental stability is split into two, where she is literally two different people at certain points. And I feel like that's a really good theory that's probably why she was willing to let them go. And then at the end, that look she gives Hugh, not Hugh, but Steven in a different light, which we'll get there when we get there. But, you know, he says, if I could do something for you so you're not alone, will you let them go? And then, of course, we cut back to the room, and of course the door opens and you see Hugh coming in there, and he's like, guys, we gotta go, let's get him to the hospital. And, you know, they're dragging, you know, Luke out, they're holding him, and Hugh is holding him with Steven, and Steven and Hugh both look to the left, and then Hugh looks at Steven and kind of shakes his head, and they keep going, and they go all the way downstairs, and of course they, you know, they get him in there, and we're like, all right, take him to the hospital, we're good to go, you know, go, we'll meet you there. And then Hugh's like, Steven, I need to talk to you real quick, man. I need to talk to you. And as they go into, you know, the house, this is when we get the final, those 3 hours, those missing 3 hours that we didn't get to see, that the cop wants to talk about, that no one knows what happens. But this is why Hugh has decided not to burn the house down, why he did what he did. So like I said, Mr. and Mrs. Dudley showed up, you know, to find out Abigail's dead. And when they go to, talk about what to do, calling the police and shit, the Dudleys proceed to tell him that they're going to take Abigail's body and go bury it out back so no one knows about it, so no one can worry about it, because no one knows that she was even there. And not to make mention about the house, don't let people in the house. Don't make mention that the house fucking did this shit, even though Hugh did. But, Hugh not thinking straight. But they proceed to make an agreement that let the house stay. Because when someone dies in the house, of course their spirit stays. Their spirit stays and they don't go anywhere. So long as the house stands, their spirits stay. And because Abigail died in the house, yeah, the little girl's dead, but they can still see her because she's in the house. So they asked if he could keep the house standing, because Hugh was about ready to burn the house. He's like, burn this fucking house down to the ground. Fuck this house. I hate this house. But they talked him out of it, and they're just like, let it stay. Just keep us on as employees so we can stay here and be with our child. Please, please, please. So Hugh did. Hugh let them scoop her body up and leave with her body. And then Olivia showed up. And he talked to Olivia. And that is what he did for 3 hours. He talked to the Dudleys. He let them clean up Abigail's body. And he talked to Olivia. And that's why he couldn't talk about it. Because how do you explain that to a police officer? I talked to my dead wife for 3 hours. I talked to her about the situation. And one of the things, again, of course, Hugh said that really, broke me, and I forgot to mention this, is when the Dudleys come in, of course, Hugh's holding Olivia's dead body in his hand, and he looks up, blood on his face, blood on his shirt, and tears in his eye, and he's just like, I can fix this. I can fix this. Please just let me fix this. And this man is determined to fix everything, and he ends up fixing it here. This is how he ends up fixing it. So, after they made the arrangement and we cut back to Steve and Hugh in the house, you see what Steve was looking at that Hugh told him no. And it's, Hugh's dead. Hugh killed himself. Hugh overdosed on, I'm assuming, his heart medication or whatever medication he had on him, and killed himself so he could stay there with Olivia so the kids can go. And he basically told Steven, whatever happens to the house is up to you now, man. Keep the deal with the Dudleys. Don't let anybody in this house, though. Don't let anybody in this house. And he kept his promise. He kept his promise. He told his dad he would not destroy the house. And we leave with Steven watching Hugh go into the house, go into the room. And of course, Nellie's all excited, like, Daddy, you're here. And fucking Hugh's hugging. But of course, you get this weird look from Olivia, looking at Steven like, you next, boy. You next. Because I feel like, in some aspects, they're all going to be drawn back to this house. It's not the end for them. Granted, we'll never get to see this because there's no actual season 2 for The Haunting of Hill House. It's, it's just the one-off season. But I feel like even in their deaths, they're going to make their way back to the house so they could be reunited once again. Let me explain. So, once, Steve, leaves the house, we get this montage, the silent lay steadily, monologue. And we get this beautiful thing of Theo, packing up, leaving out of the guest house, Shirley's guest house. And she's got Trish with her, and, she's taking her gloves off. So she's accepted her gift and is willing to, just feel anything from anybody at this point. You got Steven reconciling with his wife, basically, talking about, I'm assuming, the reverse vasectomy and about why he did it and shit. Shirley's talking to her husband about the fucking affair she had and explaining to him. And then Luke, he's celebrating his 2 years sober. Now, the running theory is the Luke thing was fake because the cake is red. I'm going to go with a no. I don't believe in that theory. I believe the house is done with them for now. because the house knows that they will come back because of this. So after we get done with the kids' little montage of what they've been doing, we see Mr. Dudley bringing his, and this is old Mr. Dudley, by the way, not young Mr. Dudley, not Mr. Dudley we've seen throughout the show. This is like an older version of like today's Mr. Dudley. And he's carrying Mrs. Dudley in his arms, and he's running to the house. And as soon as he busts into the house, he puts her down, and she smiles, and she dies. And of course he hugs her, and he cries a little bit, and he looks up, and there she is, Mrs. Dudley, Claire, looking beautiful as ever, young, vibrant, holding a baby in one arm, and Abigail in her next arm. And that is why I don't think the Luke's cake vision or 2 years sober was a farce created by the house. I think even in their deaths, or even before they die, they're going to come back to the house one more time and die at the house. Because that feels like the vicious cycle of this house. That it's going to get what it wants. It may not get it when it wants it, but it's going to get what it wants. And it's always going to feed, and it's always going to fester, and it's always going to fucking want to eat. You can't starve it, but you can let it go hungry for a little bit. And do I have anything from the monologue? Hang on one second. Okay, yeah, here we go. So yeah, after, Mr. Dudley and all that, and the 2 years sober, and like I said, I don't think the 2 years sober thing is a dream. I think that actually happened. I think they're actually finally all moving on from the house, not knowing that the looming shadow of this great building will still be over them, but won't haunt them as badly. And this is why, because of what Stephen says at the end. That silence less steadily against the stone and brick of the house, and those who walk with this those who walk with it walk together. Compare that to the line in the beginning of the show when it said, "Those who walk with it walk alone." Now, that everybody, has moved on, has passed, they will walk together. So at the end, I think, even though we won't see it, I think at the end, when they die, they'll all still wind up back at the house. Even though the house is a terrible fucking memory for a lot of them, I think still some of their greater memories are there, which is their loved ones, their spirits of the people they care about, the people they love. Because they're not alone, they're all together in this now. And that's it, guys. That's the end of the show. That was The Haunting of Hill House. Now, this show, like I said, it's hands down one of my favorite shows. I love this show. It's one of the greatest horror shows I've ever watched. It literally gets me still, even though I've seen it like multiple times, even though I've sat down and binge watched the show. I've watched a handful of episodes. Like, it's very well written, acted, directed. Just everything about the show is just, it's perfect. Chef kiss. And I don't say that lightly either. I take my criticism towards my horror genre shit very serious, because I've seen so much shit. So much horror movies, so many horror video games, movies, TV shows, comic books, you name it. I've seen it all. So I'm very, very, picky and very kind of anal about my reviews and about how I feel about things, because I could say, like, one of my favorite things is, I liked it. I liked it. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. That's a basic review for me when it comes to a movie that has a very similar topic or perspective or something I've seen in another horror movie, but not done bad. But not done better either. And I will always make that point. I'll be like, oh, it wasn't that bad, it wasn't that good. Granted, I've seen it done better here, or it wasn't as bad as this. That's my basic bitch review, it's alright. But if I really like a show, I would go on in detail, or a movie or whatever. I'll just go on and on about it and actually explain why it's good, why I think personally it's a really good show, and why you should definitely give it a shot. Because I've seen this shit. I grew up watching a lot of movies, and a lot of time behind the scenes and on the scenes, my theater life and shit. I know a lot of background information that most people watching movies really don't think about when watching movies and TV shows. You know, they're looking at the fine acting on the screen, which, yeah, you want to look at that, but I notice finer details, you know, the certain clothing items, the way the lighting hits, the way the sound kicks in. You know, these things I just end up inattentionally looking at, and if I can find a show that makes me appreciate everything, it's a really good fucking show to me. It's really fucking good. Even if it's a story I've been told before, and I can't even say that about The Haunting of Hill House. This story has not been told before. This is a retelling of a story I know. And I like that. I like the originality of the show, and everything about the show is amazing. But if you ever get a chance, definitely look up some of the Reddit stories of the background characters for The Haunting of Hill House, because that definitely fleshes out a lot of ghosts and a lot of background information, especially like with the dogs and Jacob, Mr. Hill, William, you know, Poppy, Hazel, and all of them. It really, really helps kind of flesh out these characters a lot more. Yet again, guys, we went over on this stream by another hour or so, but I figured, because again, we're talking about 5 fucking episodes of this show, and I had to add some fun little facts I did find out about the Reddit stories. But I think we're gonna go ahead and end this podcast here. I hope everybody who has watched is watching will watch. I hope you enjoy. I hope everybody has a fantastic and a wonderful night. And if you watch this video on Anchor, Spotify, or whatever you're listening this on to, get this video, subscribe, a follow, or whatever, because you never know what fuck shit I'm gonna do. Trust me, I never fucking know. Next week, I'll probably be talking about Dead Space, because the game's coming out tomorrow, and I already pre-ordered my copy, and I'll be playing that first thing as soon as I get home and have it downloaded. So tomorrow on the Twitch stream, catch me here live at 4 o'clock to watch Dead Space. I don't know how long I'm gonna be in on it. I'm gonna try not to play too terribly much, because I did promise my boyfriend I'll play some with him, because I love this game and I need my support buddy. But I really, 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 really want to play this game. But that's a story for another day. So until then, my friends, y'all take care.